Tim Scott is out of the 2024 presidential race as we analyze what the last debate did, where it set people, and what debate number 4 is going to mean for Iowa, for beyond, and what it's going to mean for Ronna Romney McDaniel, who has managed to piss off everybody on both sides of the aisle. So a lot of stuff going on in the Republican primary field. We'll see what's happening there. And, of course, why it doesn't matter anyway. In other news, Jenna Ellis leaves behind a testimony that goes completely opposite to what it was that she was saying back in November, leaving people to wonder whether or not she actually believes her crap, whether she believes it now, whether she believed it then, and what this means, because the walls are totally closing in this time. They've really got them this time, but we'll go over some of that, what this means, where we go with that, and what we do with that. Eric Adams has assets seized and an investigation going into him because of allegations that the Turks might have made money off of his campaign. We'll be going over some of that, where we go with this and what happens there. And San Francisco has decided to clean up their city because Xi Jinping is visiting, leaving residents to wonder why they didn't do this before and whether or not it'll go back to being a shithole after Xi Jinping leaves. It is going to be all of this and more on Contemporary. So strap yourselves in, find some friends, bring some new people in here, tell some other people what's going on here, and we will see you on the other side of the title card. As always, Melancholy Kaleidoscope, it's high time you shake things up and get the picture in your head right. Melancholy Kaleidoscope, it's all right. Can't be 100 if you're only giving 95. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a lot to go over here today. It's been a fairly busy week, and I'm actually a little surprised that I was able to fill the rack as it was today, just based on the fact, like, I've had a busy week in and of everything else. But right now, I'm going to choose not to go into too many details on what happened here, but needless to say, it was a family emergency, and yes, I spent a lot of time. Well, I did kind of scroll through X a little bit while I was waiting to hear news on everything, but for the most part, it was just kind of walking the floor, pacing, and hoping that everything was okay. Some of you guys who are in the know actually know what went on, and I did leave details in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, come back and join. You can enter the conversation. You can say a prayer for your fellow Discorders or your fellow Ed heads as well. We get into voice chats from time to time, so you can come back and join us for that. It's an interactive experience. I know it's a small Discord right now, so it's kind of quiet most of the time, but it definitely is an interactive experience. You can check out the link in the description. If you're on the Twitch side, it's in the description, and it'll scroll by in links as you go. It's in the description underneath if you're on the YouTube side or on the DLive side or on the Rumble side as well. So you can come back and join us for that. It's always a great time. But yeah, it's definitely been a week that I don't want to go through again for a very, 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 very long time. That many varies. So anyway, I can sit here and feel sorry for myself about what happened there, or we can have the conversation and see what's happening in the news. Hang on, I've actually got to do some settings here and some changes, because it looks like when I put my new graphics card in, I didn't test all my scenes and my center screen is out. So let me... There we go. I just looked over to get ready to transition into everything and realized, hey, the screen is black where it's supposed to be, and that means that we're not going to have new scene, but I got it fixed. All right, on-air production, let's go. A couple things going. I'm going to, for the next maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to start alternating between 6 and 7 as a start time. I want to experiment and see when more people are available to come back and have the conversation. Because I can go until 9 Central Time, of course. But I did notice, because we got started later last week, because of the fact that I was literally 100 miles away from where I'm sitting right now at 5 o'clock last Tuesday afternoon, I did notice we got actually a little bit more engagement starting at 7. So I'm going to, for the next few weeks... We're going to alternate between starting at 6 and starting at 7, so we'll decide where we get the most engagement off of that. So that's going to be here. If you're on the Instagram side, do remember that you're not going to see the video that's behind me. So that's going to be coming up here in the near future. And as always, get some friends in, have the conversation. You can chat, and I will read the chat as applicable, usually between articles. Sometimes I'll go back 2 or 3 different articles as we go, because, hey, that's part of having a live show here, is you get to come back in and tell me and the rest of the world how you feel about what's going on that. So let's get down into the news. Let's get started. We spent enough time off of this. Let's get the live chat up so I can see what you're doing over there. A few people watching over on the Rumble side. So welcome in over there. No chats over there yet. On the main chat, I've got the Mogwai that's saying... But the emails, but the laptop. All good is all I'm going to ask. It's still a little bit touch and go, but it looks like it's starting to resolve itself, so that's great. Like I said, well, you're in the Discord, Mogwai, so you actually can see what happened. But yeah, all is good, so thank you for that. Saint is joining us here tonight over on the YouTube side. Welcome in. Let's get into the news and let's get started. We're going to start today talking about the Republican debate and the field. Starting today with NBC News. Tim Scott drops out of the 2024 presidential race. He's gone. It's over. He is done. Which he should have done maybe 5 weeks ago at this point. And I'm going to come out and say, saying this as a person who was actually interested in what Tim Scott had to say. I was interested in him as a candidate to start with. I soured on him about the middle of the first debate. I couldn't do it anymore. Just kind of seeing the way he was trying to pull the Evangelo Khan, and he did every speech as if it's, woe was me because I'm black, and I'm the evangelist. I am preaching a sermon. I'm not giving a political speech. I'm preaching a sermon. I kind of soured on that to begin with, but he is done. I mean, it's interesting to watch, too, because remember, we watched the second debate together. Unfortunately, we couldn't watch the third debate because we had family stuff going on my end. But we watched the second debate together, and one of the things that we saw was, like, it really seemed in that second debate like the moderators were trying to push the drama to get the clicks and get the views. to push a fight between Tim Scott and Nikki Haley, which was interesting with that as well. Saint says, we're doomed! Doomed! Mogwai says, you can chat if you want to, but can you dance if you want to? We can dance if we want to. We can leave our friends behind. Because your friends don't dance. And if they don't dance, well, they're no friends of mine. Only if you don't watch, or if you dance the salsa, says Saint. This is why I don't watch the debate. Well, it's more interesting when I've actually got a conversation going back on. I will tell you that right off the bat. With live chat, debates are a lot more fun. Like, I watched their debate with my mom. But of course, obviously, being at my parents' house, I couldn't stream. But I watched the third debate with my mom, and it wasn't as fun as just seeing the live chat pop up there and start railing on these morons. Alright, but let's read here from Namdi Egwonwu and Alex Tibet. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina announced Sunday night that he is dropping out of the 2024 Republican presidential campaign, shocking a TV interviewer and even his own campaign staff with an abrupt departure from the race. When I go back to Iowa, it will not be as a presidential candidate. I'm suspending my campaign, Scott said in an appearance on former GOP Rep. Trey Gowdy's Fox News program. Oh God, he's on Fox News now? Really? Why? I don't know. I think the voters, who are the most remarkable people on the planet, have been really clear that what they're telling me. Not now, Scott continued. The announcement was a surprise. Gowdy, a former colleague of Scott's in the House, appeared to do a double take. As he made his statement, multiple Scott staffers told NBC News that they got no warning he was ending his campaign, finding out only by watching him say so on TV. Really? The lagging poll numbers were not an indicator that this wasn't going to go to the finish line? Really? Scott's campaign even sent out a fundraising email not long before he announced he was leaving the race. We want you to give one last chance to donate this weekend and help Tim reach his campaign goal. Can you chip in to help Tim win? The campaign wrote. So, he's gone. I don't know if I could support him again after seeing his debate performance. And again, with where he came in his campaign announcement, I actually was interested in Tim Scott as even a backup candidate for this particular election cycle. Like, say that they actually did find some way to circumvent the competition and kick the orange man out, which, anybody with any knowledge of statistics knows that it's a foregone conclusion at this point. I don't like that it's a foregone conclusion, but anybody with any knowledge of statistics, unless there's some absolute fuckery here, knows what's going to happen in November. And as we get towards the end of the primaries as well. But I did like Tim Scott as the possibility of a backup candidate if they did do some fuckery and get the orange man off the ballot and possibly for a 2028 candidate. I don't know if 2028 candidate. I don't know if I can do the 2028 thing with him anymore. But a part of that is because he came out here and he showed where his weaknesses were. Well, let's face it, honestly, not actually seriously campaigning for the presidency. So, he's gone. Because I enjoyed his campaign, I'm not going to throw the Na-Na song at him. Oh, who the fuck am I kidding? Yes, I am. Give it a sec. I always find it funny because the people who watch the reel on Instagram have no idea what I'm dancing to because they can't hear what's coming through my headphones like the rest of you guys can. They're just seeing a random white guy with long hair dancing. All right. So, Tim Scott, thank you for your service. You kind of suck now, and I realize that now, but, well, I hope you enjoyed what it was that you did. Let's see. Saint says, my takeaway is this, and Mokwai says he needs to say senator, which, if I'm remembering correctly, he is your senator, the Mogwai. He's a great senator, unlike someone who is interested in very big meat, not naming names. Very, very big meats. Born too late to fight in the Middle East, says Saint. Born too early to fight in the Middle East. Born just in time to be drafted to fight in the Middle East. In other words, we're doomed! Mogwai aged out. Saint says, I'm still in inactive ready reserve status. Oh, I didn't know that. I knew you had been in the military before, Saint. I just didn't know you were in inactive ready reserve. So, a little bit of fallout from the Tim Scott suspension, Politico. I've seen better run city council campaigns. Tim Scott allies fume after exit. But I think that a lot of this is just sour grapes. Natalie Allison reporting. When Tim Scott announced the end of his presidential bid from the studio of his house in Hanahan, South Carolina, some campaign aides and allies of the senator joked amongst themselves that the abrupt exit was fitting. For months, Scott's campaign, mired in a low single digits, has been beset by a lack of organization and poor communication about the campaign strategy, said one Republican operative supporting Scott, and compared to some of his Republican rivals, Scott had already been aggressive. With campaign travel, it made sense, the operative said, that Tim, from his home studio, made this announcement without the staff knowing. But even if it might have been on brand for the campaign, lacking clear direction, and with a principal who frustrated some of his own top allies for his reluctance to do more retail campaigning, Scott's abrupt departure from the race was no less bitter for those staffing him, 9 staff members and other allies of Scott's campaign told Politico. I think this was handled incredibly poorly, said one Scott campaign official who found out after being alerted by others watching Scott's interview on Fox News. Few of this year's long-shot presidential campaigns began the cycle with as much optimism as Scott's. The South Carolina senator did not only carried with him a sunny disposition, but the admiration of his colleagues and voters alongside a well-regarded acumen for raising hard dollars. His departure on Sunday night illustrated the difficulties in translating a candidate who seems formidable on paper into one who can actually hit those marks on the trail. Again, a lot of sour grapes with this one. A lot of people thought they were going to have jobs, at least through Iowa. And now they don't. So there's that aspect of it as well. So, Tim Scott, farewell. Let's talk about the debate. I don't know why, when I open this up, all of Internet Explorer just dropped back out, but maybe it's just because I don't have enough RAM. But apparently, and this is allegedly right now,
worked really hard for us tonight.
We have a Trump chant that started here.
But that was spicy.
That was awesome, you guys, but that's the last time we're going to do that, right? Because we really candidates and they worked really hard for us tonight, okay?
Hot damn, I didn't know the GOP debate could be interesting without Donald Trump, but that was spicy.
So that is on the Benny Johnson Instagram page, showing, according to the original caption on this, Trump chant breaks out at debate. Now, Newsweek is saying that this was a Ron DeSantis chant, actually. So let's listen one more time. You guys decide.
That was awesome, you guys.
I don't know. It's really hard to tell, actually, just by what little bit of clip they have going there. Like, honestly, it could go either way. And if you want my legitimate take on what's happening there, it almost sounds like it's half Ron and half Trump. Like, half the people are yelling Ron and half the people are yelling Trump. But given the fact that he wasn't on the stage, that makes it extra interesting. Mr. Scott is here. Welcome. Yes, Tim cashed out. RAM, I like to get... Oh my god, Lindsay, he's talking PC RAM, you perv. Yeah, that is kind of like the Yanny or Laurel thing. It was interesting. I remember the Yanny and Laurel thing. Like, I listened when I first heard the Yanny Laurel clip, and both times I listened to it, it was on the Matt and Blonde show. Because I listened to the audio platform in my truck on my way to work, back when I still lived an hour away from where I worked. So, like, I listened through my headphones, listening to Matt and Blonde, when that clip came out. And I heard Yanny very, very clearly through my headphones. And that was on the actual live stream video. Like, I was watching that one live on YouTube. When I ran it through my phone, I think it was because I was using... That was back when this still worked. I always kept my music and my podcast separate from my regular phone so they wouldn't take up all kinds of memory on my phone. And I just used an old iPhone that basically... there's no service to it. Well, now there's no battery in it because the battery's shot in it, but there's no service to it. But I would listen to music and I would listen to podcasts through this. And I listened to it on Apple Podcasts through the sound system in my pickup truck. And I so clearly heard Laurel, I'd actually go back and listen to the clip through my headphones again on the computer to see if I still heard Yanny. It was so weird. Different speakers showed or gave me different audio. The chant was blue, no, it's gold. Well, the dress was blue or gold. Alright, so reading from Newsweek, crowd told to stop chanting Ron at Republican debate. Some members of the crowd watching the third Republican presidential primary debate in Miami on Wednesday broke out in a chant for Florida man, as I always say, Ron DeSantis, prior to the event. Conservative commentator Benny Johnson posted on Twitter that guests were reportedly chanting Trump's name. However, he later said the audience was chanting Ron after a short while. An NBC producer addressed those in attendance, telling them not to do that anymore so the candidates on the stage could be heard. Well, yeah, of course, they had to have their chance to lie to the people. The NBC producer, whom Newsweek was unable to identify, interrupted the chanting, telling the audience, "That was awesome, you guys, but that's the last time we're going to do that." Let's listen to this video from X.
That was awesome, you guys.
Because now we can actually back up. Seriously, like half the people are yelling Trump and half of them are yelling Ron. That is my final answer on this. And really, honestly, I don't think that many people were yelling out Ron. I'm curious to know how many people were actually in attendance for this event. I don't know that they usually tell us that. Now, I did watch most of the debate. I didn't get right in the beginning, unfortunately. So I don't know how well behaved they were in the very beginning of it, but I know it really did seem... This is my takeaway before I go into what the AP and CNN and NPR's takeaways were from this, which are probably going to be all the same. What I was able to take away from this, number one, Ramaswamy won the night because he got under the skin of two people. The rest of America lost because this is really the best that we have, unfortunately, for politicians, or at least people who are willing to come forward and try to run for the highest office. Paid for shills that they are. And I think Chris Christie is actually going to try for the rest of the campaign. Like, from what I could see, and I would say I got the last 2/3 of the whole thing. From what I could see, he wasn't doing his same shtick like he was the first time. Or the first two times where it was, I'm just on stage to disparage Donald Trump. And that's all that I'm here for. Because that's all that he did the first 2 times. Especially that second debate, that stupid cringy moment. Okay, the rest of America is telling us that we need to pick people to drop out of the race. So, of all the people who were on the stage, who would you vote off the island? And the actual intelligent politician said, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to let the people decide. And meanwhile, Chris Christie sitting over here with a pen in his hand, like, not even holding it like a regular, like actually gripping it in his hand, just over and over again. Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, all down the page. So, that's my takeaway off of this. Let's see what the Associated Press had for their takeaways. Mr. Scott says the Action Lab had a really cool one with a brainstorm green needle audio illusion. I remember that one too. The one you can choose what to hear with your brain. I think you're right, Ron. I think it's half and half. I can't understand them at all. To be honest, it sounds like a Biden speech. Imagine how many hours of cell phone video has been recorded each day. 0.00001% you will see. Yep. And the weird thing is we all see the same 0.001%. Haley got destroyed. Nikki Haley needs a little Nikki Adam Sandler Satan nice. Nice. I like that. Partially because I can't stand Nikki Haley. The Associated Press GOP candidates hit Trump and back Israel. Here are highlights from the Republican debate. I have no author given on this one. Oh, yes, I do. Nicholas Riccardi and Steve Peoples. As they face an increasingly urgent task to emerge as a clear alternative to the former president, the 5 Republican candidates gathered Wednesday for the party's latest debate. Trump, the overwhelming frontrunner in the race, skipped the event, as he has the first 2, for good reason. I'm not going to go over that again. But with the January 5th Iowa caucus approaching, it seems unlikely the debate fundamentally changed the presidential nomination fight. The key takeaways, the foreign policy debate. Wednesday marked the first time the presidential candidates gathered on the debate stage since Israel and Hamas war, resulting in a sharper foreign policy conversation compared to previous forums. The contenders were unified in offering robust support for Israel, but bemoaned anti-Semitism, especially on liberal college campuses, but they said virtually nothing about protecting Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Well, that's because they're all 5 in the fucking tank for Israel. I could have told you that without listening to the debate, that's what was going to happen. The GOP's familiar foreign policy split, however, resurfaced with the exchanges veered towards the war in Ukraine, with the possibility of China confronting Taiwan and how to handle Venezuela's oil market. Haley and Tim Scott and Christie all sounded traditional GOP notes, backing military aid to Ukraine, calling for a vastly increased investment in military and linking all the global conflicts because they are war hawks. Ramaswamy tried to set himself apart, claiming the rest of the stage was part of a bipartisan foreign policy establishment that blundered into repeated disasters and foreign wars. A longtime critic of aid to Ukraine, he followed up his condemnation of anti-Semitism by calling the country's Jewish president a Nazi. That country's Jewish president a Nazi, rather. Florida man DeSantis seemed like he was straddling the divide. At one point, he dodged a question about Ukraine and China by talking about boosting security on the southern border and suggesting he'd deport immigrants from the Middle East. Ron DeSantis is in a tough spot right now. Because, like it or not, he himself is a war hawk. He's a classic Republican war hawk. Ron DeSantis always has been. But the vast majority of his support is people that he can steal from the Trump coalition who were traditionally anti-war because they're former Democrats. With an actual war happening with somebody that Ron DeSantis has pledged before the war popped out untold support for, he is straddling a very, very, very tough line. And I actually don't begrudge him that. I don't usually have a lot of nice things to say about Ron DeSantis, but I do not begrudge Ron DeSantis the line that he has to walk with this. Taking on Trump. All the candidates are trying to overtake Trump. Good luck. That became harder during the first debate, hosted by a network that wasn't affiliated, but with the Trump-friendly Fox. Oh, Jesus Christ. Trump-friendly Fox News. They hate Trump at Fox News more than they do at CNN. Moderators from NPC opened by pressing the contenders to articulate why they, and not Trump, should be the Republican nominee. Well, they shouldn't. Neither should he, but that's a topic for another day. There was hardly a robust takedown of Trump, who remains popular among the GOP base, and hosted a rival event Wednesday. DeSantis was the most forceful. Trump's a lot different from the guy that he was in 2016, he said, declaring that Trump owed it to the Republican primary voters to show up and explain his record. Jesus Christ, I can do that very simply, in a second. Okay, it wasn't perfect. I had a lot of stuff working against me, but your life was way better in 2018 than it is right now. And it's way better in 2018 than it probably was in 06 and 07 and 08. Vote for me. Vote with your wallet. But even DeSantis' strong words span less than 30 seconds, and he stopped short of questioning Trump's balls for skipping the debate, as he had in recent days. I've gone over that ad nauseum. He shouldn't be going to these debates, not while he's under a gag order, number one, and 4 active court cases. No, he should not be going to these debates on stage with a bunch of lawyers who know exactly what he can't say. The other candidates were less aggressive. Asked why he's a better nominee than Trump, Ramaswamy went as far as to blame Ronna McDaniel for the GOP's repeated losses at national elections since Trump won the presidency in 2016. Haley made a passing reference to the national debt that piled up under his watch. I have a problem with that too, but you have no problem raising the national debt if it's going towards war, so I don't want to hear it from you, Haley. Christie devoted one sentence to highlighting Trump's legal troubles. If that's all you got, then drop out of the race. The Ramaswamy-Haley feud. There were 5 candidates, but the vendetta between the 2 of them stood out, Haley and Ramaswamy. The 2 children of Indian immigrants have collided during previous debates, but the tension intensified Wednesday, with Ramaswamy gleefully playing the role of aggressor. He took several digs at Haley, at one point called her and DeSantis Cheney in 3-inch heels. A reference to the controversial former Vice President Dick Cheney and his daughter Liz, excommunicated from the GOP for her criticism of Trump. But halfway through the debate, after Haley said she'd respond to Ramaswamy's digs rather than answer a question about banning TikTok, that Ramaswamy made his most shocking attack. Noting Haley hadn't answered the question, Ramaswamy said her own daughter was using the app for a long time, so you might want to take care of your daughter first. Haley responded by forcefully telling Ramaswamy to leave my daughter out of your voice. She later said, "You're just scum." Path forward on abortion. Republicans have no answers on abortion since the Supreme Court overturned Roe, which they shouldn't. In election after election, including several this week, Democrats have used the issue to their advantage. On Wednesday, Haley, the only woman on stage, tried to give her party a path forward, navigating the delicate political issue. Haley's approach was decidedly softer and more personal than what the men on stage offered. I don't judge anyone for being pro-choice. I don't want them to judge me for being pro-life, she said, suggesting that she respected the decision of states to protect abortion rights even if she didn't agree with them. Full stop. I'm going to back up off of this one. For the GOP, stop with abortion. Okay, if you're going to do it on a state level, do it there. But on a federal level, absolutely 100% stop with abortion right now. You can't win on that issue. Because you spent umpteen decades telling the world that it was a states' right issue. And Roe versus Wade needed to be overturned so the legislation could take place at state levels. It's taking place at state levels. You won this issue. Stop trying to put it on a national focus, and for God's sake, stop letting Democrats tell you it's a national focus thing right now. You have won this battle. So stop trying to fight it. The GOP will never understand that, but you won this battle. Believe it or not. I understand that Lindsey Graham will use this to try to keep people from coming out to vote for Trump, or try to get people to come out and vote against Trump in 2024. Mark my words, on October 15th of next year, Lindsey Graham is going to come out with a proposal for another national ban, complete ban, on abortion. Mark my words, Lindsey Graham is going to do that. To try to keep Trump out of the White House. Stop trying to outlaw abortion on a federal level. Yes, I want to save more babies too. I do. But as of right now, you have won as far as you can on this. And again, stop letting these stupid ass moderators control you in this. Let's focus on how to save as many babies as we can and support as many moms as we can and stop the judgment. We don't need to divide America over this issue anymore, Haley said, drawing applause from the crowd. Yeah, if you really want to do more for these children, go volunteer at a pro-life pregnancy center. I'm trying to balance my work life right now so I can do that. Go help show women that there are other options than slaughtering their child. But yes, you have won on this issue. But that's their takeaways on this. Let's grab what CNN's are. We'll just go over this one real quick. Gregory Krieg, Eric John, Steve Contorno, Daniel Strauss, Kit Maher, and Aaron Pellish. Let's see what they have, if there's anything different. Foreign policy, same. It was like Tuesday never happened. Yeah, they're going to try to make this abortion again. DeSantis and Haley spar over China. DeSantis criticized Haley for recruiting a Chinese fiberglass company to come to her state during her tenure as governor, which is really stupid, by the way. She welcomed them into South Carolina, gave them land near a military base, wrote the Chinese ambassador a love letter, saying what a great friend they were. That was like their number one way to do economic development, DeSantis claimed. In Florida, I banned China from buying land in the state. We kicked the Confucius Institutes out of our universities. We've recognized the threat, and we've acted swiftly and decisively. First off, if you're telling me, and I understand that part of the reason the real estate market is in such a horrible place right now is because there is so much foreign investment in it. But again, you're showing the authoritarian, iron-fisted side, the controlled planned economy side of the GOP, that the MAGA voters rejected. So do keep that in mind. Again, there's a tightrope there. There's a balance between banning outright all foreign investment, which can bring jobs back in, and letting China open up factories next to your factory. There is a balance between the two of them. But neither Haley nor DeSantis is trying to strike that balance right now. They're just in their corners on either side of it. I'll just check in a little bit more of these. Ramaswamy came out swinging. We know about that one. Haley-Ramaswamy feud, we saw that one. Christie and Scott became the fringe candidates. Well, Scott's gone, so One could be forgiven for forgetting that Christie and Scott were even on the debate stage Wednesday. The other three candidates were more interested in scoring shots at each other and seemed to view Christie and Scott as lagging too far behind in the polls to spend much time. Well, Ramaswamy is only there to shake things up and gain a mega audience for whatever his new business venture is going to be, which I don't know what it's going to be, but I guarantee that's what he's doing. And DeSantis and Haley both know full well that Iowa, second place in Iowa, makes or breaks their political careers. So yes, they're both trying to come out on top of each other. Get that mental image out of your mind. So that's what CNN had to say. Let's catch up with the live chat over here, because it looks like Grant has joined us. Let's see. Anti-Semitism is their... Mr. Scott says, everyone's race card is starting to come back denied when swiped. I'm bordering on having to go to Rumble, but I'm just going to put on a happy face. Well, it's there whenever you're ready. And then you'll start to hear me say, I can't read that on YouTube, can't read that on YouTube. Mogwai says Chris Christie is talking about how he's better than Trump, all the while he was fighting Lindsey Graham to fit his head up Trump's ass. Try to get that mental image out of your mind. Mr. Scott likes Ron more than Vivek. I don't think, again, that Vivek is actually running for the presidency. Vivek is sold out to Big Pharma. Notice the New York lawyers aren't going after him for being for Big Pharma donations. That's correct. New York State has no jurisdiction. He's an obvious clown. Yeah, that was naturally going to happen. Mad people vote harder. And so the pendulum of mad voters swings back and forth right and left. I wouldn't doubt Marcus Aurelius wrote about that. Democrats are trying to pass a national abortion bill that overrides all state bills. Democrats can easily make it a national issue. But the Supreme Court can step in on that based on the ruling that they found in... What was the case? Obergefell? No, that was the gun one. Dobbs. Based on Dobbs, they can actually override that bill. That's the problem. Anyone who says, let's not judge, is about to judge. What was not said was as loud, if not louder, as was said. I can't read that on YouTube. Some guy on YouTube. Yup. Alright, so that's there. NPR probably has the same things. What's NPR 6 takeaways? Foreign policy and funding. Ramaswamy-Haley feud. Republicans want to win on the economy, but struggle with specifics. The candidates did eventually get to domestic issues, including the economy and the future of Social Security. Yeah, I remember that. Asked about a plan for keeping the program for elderly and disabled Americans solvent in the long term, Christie and Haley each said that they would increase the eligibility age, but declined to say how much. Well, they've actually got to have the numbers in front of them so they can make that decision. Christie said wealthy Americans should not accept Social Security, citing billionaire Warren Buffett as an example, but did not specify an income level at which he believes such a rule should apply. Well, they shouldn't be expected to pay in then either. If they can't get anything out of it, they shouldn't be expected to pay in, which would bankrupt the system. DeSantis appeared skeptical of Haley's suggestion of tying the retirement age to increasing life expectancy, since the program was created, noting that life expectancy has been declining in recent years. That's also a good thing to point out there. Scott warned against raising the retirement age for people with physical jobs that become more difficult to perform with age, and appealed to the plight of farmers who do heavy physical labor in the first-in-the-nation caucus state of Iowa. The abortion issue is unavoidable for Republicans because you have an NBC broadcast team that keeps bringing it up. And that's where they're at with that. Alright. I'm going to skip this one just because we talked about that at length in the Associated Press. But with Nikki Haley, I do want to point out something that she did say earlier today. So let's back this up here just a bit. Disclose.tv with a video clip of this. Nikki Haley. Every person on social media should be verified by their name because of national security. Given the fact, of course, that the founders wrote the Federalist Papers under pseudonyms for very obvious reasons. That's like the most anti-American thing you can say right there.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us.
If you get into office and the first thing you want to do is social media, when we have 7.5% prime interest rates, that right there should disqualify you from the presidency. End of story.
See why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name.
No.
That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to
Are the Russian bots in the room with us, Nikki?
get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
Accountability.
Nimrata, do you want to put your name next to what it is that you have to say? Stephen Ignoramus actually made a good comment on this when he pointed out people who change their names for political clout shouldn't be allowed to hold public office. And I'm making a very bold statement saying that, given the fact, of course, that I use my middle name for everything now. But that was more to shake off a stalker, and yes, less than to try to... Because my first name is as anglicized as my middle name. Actually, I think my middle name has Hispanic origins, if I recall correctly. I'd have to look it up again. But yes, Nimrata, would you like to put your name next to everything else that you touch?
And they know their pastor and their family members going to see it. It's going to help our kids, and it's going to help our country.
No, what Nikki Haley wants to do is make sure that you are afraid of losing your job and your livelihood if you have an opinion that goes against what the government does. You know, like the fucking leftoids do. You bitch. God, I can't stand her. Here's what ended the debate. Ramaswamy's closing statement, which I actually applauded. And again, I don't really care for Ramaswamy that much because I don't think he's actually running for president. But when he gets blood, he gets blood. Let's listen.
I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
just
Mr.
tell us the truth so we can have an honest debate. I also want to...
Which, and I mean, it needs to be said. Biden he's a steward. He's a stand-in candidate. He's not running the country. Well, I think he's more involved than MAGA and like people like Styx think he is, but I think he's less involved than the shills will go out and make you believe. Again, I think it's somewhere in the middle. But yes, I would like to see an honest debate, and I do want to see who is running everything. All right, let's talk Ronna Romney McDaniel, who had a train wreck of a week. I'm going to start here. I got a clip here of Ronna reacting to Vivek and then having a meltdown on air when simply asked why she should keep her RNC job, which she shouldn't. Look, I'm no Republican. And I should, in theory, give less than a flying fuck what the RNC does with their leadership and everything else. But right now I'm staring down the barrel of a Democrat presidency, a second Democrat presidency in a row, who seems bent on destroying the middle class to get more people onto government benefits. And I can rise to the top in spite of all that. And I'm looking at even some of the worst GOP candidates, realizing that on their worst day, they're still better than what the DNC has openly planned for the rest of us. And realizing that a lot of them can't get off the ground because of this woman right here. So let's see why she thinks she should keep her RNC job.
All right, joining me now, Ronna McDaniel, chairwoman of the Republican National Committee. Ronna, thanks so much for being with us. Vivek and others are saying that under your leadership, Republicans have lost election after election, and positing the question, why should you retain your job given the track record of the party under your leadership? And to that, what do you say?
Well, first, I'm going to continue to focus on Joe Biden and Democrats. And I think there was a moment missed during that debate by Vivek to talk about the fact that we still have 13 American hostages in Israel, the fact that for the first time ever in the history of either party, we had a Jewish co-sponsor for a debate, and we are in very perilous times in our country. And I do think Republican voters, and I hear this echoed all the time, are tired of the circular firing squad within our party, and they're saying, can we please talk about Joe Biden and the Democrats and the border and fentanyl and crime and what's happening to our kids and inflation. But I'll definitely defend my record as chair. Listen,
I mean, Ronna, I agree with you. Let me just say, I mean, all that you just said, I couldn't agree with more. But and you're right. I mean, obviously that should be a key focus. But I know you believe in accountability. You talk about it all the time. I mean, everyone. I mean, I'm accountable. You're right.
Some accountability.
Okay, that's what I asked you, and you went into another
I was going to go there. Sorry, I took too long on the answer, but I was getting there. I'm not trying to avoid anything. Let me promise you that, Laura. Listen, when Vivek didn't vote in 2016, I was leading Michigan to the first win in history in 30 years. In 2018, we defied the odds. We got 3 senators, people like Josh Hawley, that allowed President Trump to build the largest conservative majority on the Supreme Court. In 2022, the RNC, which is a turnout machine, right? We're not the messengers. We don't create the messages for the campaigns. Those are the consultants who get very, very well paid.
Well, one of the things, though, Ronna, that happened was, I think in Virginia, people were wondering where the money was, whether they were going to get some help from the RNC. And I know at one point you said that you were not asked for money in Virginia, but a Republican source familiar with the Youngkin team in Virginia told The Angle late tonight that is false.
Mogwai, your cat is at it again. An unnamed source.
And meaning your story keeps changing. Anyone who thinks Virginia Republicans wouldn't want help when we knew we'd be outspent isn't being serious. Ronna, they were outspent by $8 million.
Glenn Youngkin and did a phenomenal job, and he raised a lot of money. A lot of people don't understand fundraising. I can't raise state dollars. I don't get unlimited convention and state dollars. And these were state House and state Senate races. The RNC is a federal committee. So, I mean, come on. Can you just, these are people who come after me all the time. They're on Twitter. They're all the time. And let's see their results. What did they do in Virginia? How much money did they give? But let me stand by something else. In 2022, we took back the House. And the RNC is part of that. We're building the road. And we're launching Bank Your Vote. We've got to do that.
Ronna, we got to roll, but
early.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a lot more to get to next.
I mean, your record speaks for itself. And realistically, now, there is a level of donation that goes to the RNC. And yes, there is a level of state dollars, as she's saying, that go directly to the candidates. This is not like at Blue, where they just put everything into a great big pot, no matter who the state candidate is, and then they distribute it based on the races they think are more important to win. But you do still have a general fund for the RNC and several PACs that come back out and fill the RNC. So yes, you do have a hand in this, and Youngkin won in spite of that, by the way. If if what Laura Ingraham is saying is true. And again, it's an unnamed source, and I will give the benefit of the doubt to Ronna McDaniel on that. I don't give her the benefit of the doubt often, but I will give her the benefit of the doubt on the fact that that was an unnamed source who said that they were begging the RNC for money for the Youngkin race and weren't getting anything. But she, I know the MAGA crowd can't stand this woman, and apparently, and some of the things that we're going to see later, the neocons are starting to say, hey, if you're going to go support Trump, then you need to get launched the fuck out of here. So, let's throw some music back up here. I'm not going to throw music up just yet because I think I've got another video clip. Timcast. Thank you to Putz in the Discord for putting this one in there because this is not something I normally would have listed. Ronna McDaniel overheard trashing Vivek in debate audience saying he won't get a cent from us. From Cassandra McDonald. So we've got video clip of Vivek here. And Vivek appears to have a heated discussion with RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel from the debate stage as the candidates file out. Do we have a clip of her saying this? I don't know. I'll read here for a bit and then we'll watch the clips. A source, an unnamed source, who was sitting near McDaniel, told Timcast News she was... Oh. Yeah, that is the beginning. No, it's... Okay, it's like the BBC. I never read from Timcast News, so I don't know their format. That's not a caption of the photo. That's the actual beginning of the article, just like the BBC. And the BBC throws me off by doing that all the time. Ronna McDaniel, the chairwoman of the RNC, was overheard loudly disparaging candidate Vivek Ramaswamy from the audience during Wednesday night's debate. A source who was sitting near McDaniel told Timcast that she was not attempting to keep her voice lowered, as she called him an asshole and declared that the party would not be giving him a cent. Vivek's video, the choices should be clear. We can elect a president who will keep us out of World War III, or we can elect Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels, because there are two of them on the stage with me tonight.
Between you and the candidates we just heard on this issue, on what you would tell the Prime Minister?
Not in terms of what I would tell the Prime Minister, no. In fact, I would go one step further. The founding vision of Israel was based on the idea that they don't want to depend on anybody else's sympathy or direction in defending themselves. So what I would tell Bibi is that Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend itself. I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border, and then I'll tell him as President of the United States, I'll be smoking the terrorists on our southern border. That's his responsibility. This is our responsibility. That's how we move forward. But I want to be careful to avoid making the mistakes from the neocon establishment of the past. Corrupt politicians in both parties spent trillions, killed millions, made billions for themselves in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting wars that sent thousands of our sons and daughters, people my age, to die in wars that did not advance anyone's interests, adding $7 trillion to our national debt. And Joe Biden sold off our foreign policy. Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, got a $5 million bribe from Ukraine. That's why we're sending $200 billion back to that same country. The fact of the matter is the Republican Party is not that much better. You have the likes of Nikki Haley, who stepped down from her time at the UN. Bankrupt or in debt was her family. Then she becomes a military contractor. She joins the board of Boeing and otherwise, and is now a multimillionaire. So I think that that's wrong when Republicans do it or Democrats do it. That's the choice we face. Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first, or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
All right, Mr.
In which case,
Ramaswamy.
we've got two of them on stage
Mr.
tonight.
Ramaswamy, thank you. Senator.
I think they were trying to brush him off because, let's be frank, and I did see a little bit of this with the way that NBC was running things. I think NBC is in the tank for the DeSantis campaign, and I think they knew what was coming with that, and I think they were trying to brush him off, maybe cut off his ability to speak before he did point out the fact that Nikki Haley wasn't the only war hawk up there. He's an asshole, total asshole, McDaniel said. He's desperate because he's doing bad in the polls. He won't be getting a cent from us. She also loudly booed him during an exchange with Haley, according to a person sitting nearby. She was in complete meltdown mode over Vivek, the source said. This was in the middle of the audience, within earshot of at least 50 people. Ramaswamy and McDaniel appeared to have heated exchanges both before and after the debate. Let's watch.
It looks like he's speaking now to Ronna McDaniel. Can't make her out exactly, but it looks like they may be having the exchange. Look, this was a big debate. Vivek came out here. He attacked the moderators. He attacked the media. He attacked the RNC for setting up this debate the way it was. And for a lot of the debate, he was on the attack. It was Vivek first, the rest of the room. When we look at the rest of the candidates and who received a lot of that incoming, we start with Nikki Haley. It then goes to Governor Ron DeSantis, who was center stage, of course, the hometown hero, if you will, in his state of Florida. And then Vivek in third place, getting other attacks as well. But he clearly was on off.
All right. So they're out swinging. And best opening we've seen, they say, Citizens Free Press. Vivek comes out swinging at Ronna. Vivek incites RNC Ronna to resign on stage. Vivek demands Kristen Welker and Lester Holt answer the damn question.
Swamy, let me turn to you. Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer to the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020. 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Romney.
Sorry. This is how we get our country back. We need accountability because this media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
and they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor Christie. Why you?
His time wasn't up, by the way. They had 2 minutes. He was at 90 seconds. His time was not up. So, some interesting shakeups with that, but again, I do think it's time for Ronna Romney to go. I do. Ronna comes back. Last I checked, I wasn't running for president, McDaniel said on Sunday. No, but you're running for the... I'm sorry. You are sitting in the chair of the funding apparatus that's supposed to get whoever's running for president elected, so... and all the other reps. So there's that. McDaniel said on Sunday in an interview on State of the Union, he's at 4% looking for headlines. So that's where they're going. Now, on to the neocon side of why Ronna McDaniel can't win. Axios reporting, RNC will support Trump if voters choose him, even if convicted, chair says. From Shawneen Miranda, which, again, you should.
And they want...
Video can't be played. Error code. Let me see if I can refresh this and make it work.
And they want to see us win in November.
If those are the issues, if you end up having Donald Trump as your nominee, and if he is convicted of a crime, do you believe that he would be the appropriate nominee for the Republican Party?
Whoever the voters choose is the appropriate nominee.
Even if he's a convicted criminal?
I know this is newsworthy, but as party chair, I'm going to support who the voters choose. And yes, if they choose Donald Trump, the voters are looking at this and they think there is a two-tiered system of justice. They don't believe a lot of the things that are coming out in this, and they're making these decisions, and you're seeing that reflected in the polls.
That's the right answer. That is 100% the right answer. I didn't think, as bad as Ronna is, that she was suicidal enough as a party chair to go to brokered convention. I think she's smarter than that. Not very much, but I think she is smarter than to go to brokered convention. If the people have spoken and that's who they want, God help us all. RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel said the committee would support former President Trump if the voters were to choose him. Zoom out, Trump is polling far ahead of any of his GOP competitors, and he's even gotten a little boost following his indictments in 4 separate jurisdictions. A large share of Republican voters believe that Trump's legal woes are politically motivated, according to CBS News/YouGov poll. Recent polling from the New York Times, a former newspaper, and Siena College revealed Trump's dominance not only among the GOP, but within key 2024 swing states. The poll had Trump beating Biden in 5 of the 6 swing states that Biden won in 2020. So it's going to get interesting before it calms back down again. But yes, that is 100% the right answer. Although it appears that Miss Piggy doesn't believe so. From the Hill, Liz Cheney, says RNC Chair, collaborating with Trump's Nazi propaganda. Yes, you read that right. From Miranda Nazaro. Former Representative Liz Cheney ripped RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel for dodging questions Sunday about former President Trump's vermin comments, which Cheney described as Nazi propaganda. When @GOP chairwoman refused to condemn GOP's leading candidate for using the same Nazi propaganda that mobilized the 1930s, 40s Germany to evil, it's fair to assume she's collaborating, Cheney wrote in a post on X, formerly Twitter. History will judge Ronna McDaniel and every Republican who is appeasing this dangerous man. So yes, even the neocons don't care for her. Do I want to touch on this one? I don't know if I do. Because essentially I said all the things that I had to say about that in the AP article. Yeah, we're going to skip that one. Because we got a full slate here yet. Austin Peterson's cringe publication, because he can't get published anywhere else, has this to say about Mr. Scott's favorite candidate, of course. Can Vivek make libertarians gaga for MAGA? By Austin Peterson. This is an opinion piece. The opinions expressed here are the opinions of Austin Peterson. Not necessarily, well, because AMP America is Austin's publication, they necessarily are the opinions of AMP America, but they are not necessarily the opinions of Contemporary, Turns of Pages Productions, or your host, Jay Edgar. Vivek's stand-up performance in the first presidential debate was the first time that I, as a libertarian Republican, had considered him as a viable candidate. He's not, by the way, since then. He's called for firing 1 million federal employees, avoiding World War III, shutting down the deep state, drilling, fracking, burning coal, embracing nuclear, and massively scaling back foreign aid. These are all priorities that any believer in limited government can get behind. Despite this, it's common for Vivek's critics to claim that he's just telling us what we want to hear, which he is, by the way. I get that, and I'm sure that I've thought about certain I'm sure that I've thought that about certain politicians, but the problem with the accusation is that since most people aren't libertarian Republicans, it's rare to hear a politician actually telling me what I want to hear, and since people like myself are a minority view, there's no actual incentive for a politician to tell me what I want to hear. If that were the case, he'd be saying something much blander, something that had a wider reach to appeal to the masses. Vivek's rhetoric is aspirational and aimed at pointing the way towards a brighter future. Personally, I'm tired of the doom-mongering from so many on the right, even if all the negative things that we believe about our current situation are true. Just what exactly are we planning to do about it? Give up? Turn over our country to those who hate us and want us dead? Escape into the woods and hope they don't come for us here? How'd that work out for Randy Weaver? Oof. Even I found that offensive. No, we don't need to have a plan to secure our future for ourselves and our posterity. Our civilization grows strong when old men plant trees under whose branches they will never sit. Vivek's optimistic view of the American future is one that is sorely needed in right-wing circles, and it's refreshing to think that we might have people in the Republican Party who are not only willing to fight to destroy the current regime, but also who have a plan with what to replace it with. Who else running has called to abolish the FBI and to deregulate machine guns? Only Vivek. So, Austin makes a lot of points, but the first thing you have to understand is Vivek is not running to be the president. He never has been. There is a chance that he might pop up as the name in the completely undemocratic LP convention because of some of the things that Austin is saying about him. But he is looking to land, again, a captive audience for whatever his next business venture is. All right. Let's check in with the chat. Republicans don't want to give specifics on the economy because part of fixing it is less free shit. Yep. That is absolutely true. Democrats can just promise more free shit and ignore the economic consequences. Part of the reason they can do that is because they actually don't have any intention on giving the free shit. It's a perpetual campaign promise that they just say, oh, the Republicans blocked again and again. Mr. Scott says you can hack any system. Grant says, what's the example of someone changing their name? Oh, Nikki Haley's name is Nimrata. Has anyone successfully changed the name and it helped them in politics? Nimrata Haley. I looked when Mr. Scott said I dropped, and okay, he had a hiccup. That's why I was going to say, this is actually one of the few streams that I've had where I haven't had a drop frame yet. Knock on wood. These women are the product of cancel culture in the early 2000s. They chased away anyone who didn't toe their line of weakness, and that's what they get. Over on the Rumble side, what can I and can I not read? I think Haley might be on the mustache pills. I can't read that. Definitely can't read that. I think it's safe to say that Dual Helix is a little bit fired up. Yeah, just a little bit. I think there's a reason that he jumped off the YouTube side. Nimrata, Nimrata. November India Mike Romeo Alpha Tango Alpha. That's Nikki Haley's real name. All right. So that's the debate in a nutshell. I know that we've gone over that for almost the entire stream at this point, an hour 14 minutes on that. But we do have some other stuff to go over here today before we finish off with things I like and things that I hate. And I am going to do rules of acquisition tonight, by the way, just so you know. Let's talk about Jenna Ellis, which I find very interesting off of this one here. Insider reporting. I don't know if I can even read this one here. Not because it's bad to read. It's just the archive is actually giving me a problem. Because it looks like the... Yeah, the margin is all screwed up in this archive. Let's see what ABC has to say about this one. ABC, the boss is not going to leave. Proffer videos show ex-Trump lawyers telling Georgia prosecutors about efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Olivia Rubin and Will Staken reporting for ABC News. As part of a plea deal, one of former President Trump's attorneys has told prosecutors in Georgia that she was informed in the wake of the 2020 election that Trump was not going to leave the White House, despite the fact that he'd already lost the election and most of his subsequent challenges, honk honk. The revelation, along with others, came during a confidential interview that's clearly not confidential because, hey, it's out in the rest of the world. Before it can go before a jury, by the way, before a jury's been selected. It's going to be important later. The attorney, Jenna Ellis, had with Fulton County investigators. ABC News has obtained portions of the video of the proffer sessions of both Ellis and Sidney Powell, which is a mistrial, by the way. Two attorneys who aided Trump's efforts to overturn the election. The videos for the first time revealed the details of what they told law enforcement since agreeing to cooperate last month in the district attorney's election interference case. Ellis, in her proffer session, informed prosecutors that senior Trump White House official Dan Scavino told her the boss would refuse to leave the White House despite losing the election. Okay, but again, did he actually say that? Do we have a recording of him saying that? Otherwise, that's hearsay. And alluded to two other instances she said were relevant to prosecutors, but appear to be prevented from disclosing those in the videos portions obtained by ABC News due to attorney-client privilege, which hindered the portions of her proffer. Powell, meanwhile, explained to prosecutors her plans for seizing voting machines nationwide and claimed that she frequently communicated with Trump during her efforts to overturn the 2020 election, though both now claim that she was never his attorney. In the session, Powell reiterated the false assertion that Trump won the election, but acknowledged in the video that she didn't know much about election law to begin with. Which is funny because one of my coworkers at the time told me that I should listen to everything she has to say because she's an expert in this kind of thing. Did I know anything about election law? No, she told the Fulton County prosecutors, but I understand fraud from having been a prosecutor for 10 years, and I knew generally what the fraud suit should be if the evidence showed what I thought it showed. A spokesperson for the Fulton County DA did not respond to a request for comment. Attorneys for Ellis and Powell declined to comment. When reached by ABC News, Scavino also did not respond to a request for comment. Let's talk about this for just a second. Now that we have what's out there, all of this. Number one, this has tainted the jury pool, which is a big part of what they're trying to do with this. It's what they're trying to do with the Chutkan case. It's what they're trying to do with the documents case, even though you don't hear a lot about that one anymore, because that one's not going to go anywhere. That was legitimately propaganda to get people talking about whether or not the Donald sold foreign secrets out to other people. But you're not hearing a lot about that case, and there's a reason for that. But as far as this goes, number one, this is the reason this was a RICO case. And I said this when the case was announced. You can go back through my videos and see that I said this at the time. Because a lot of people were saying that they're just trying to eliminate opposition, they're trying to put more and more people in prison. No. They did this to scare a bunch of people into saying that they're going to go up to prison for 20, 30 years. And they're not going to put them in the white-collar prison. They're going to put them in the pack your bags and tape your butt shut prison if they don't cooperate. And then they're going to send another prosecutor come down in there and say, hey, Jenna, come on, listen to me, Jenna. All this goes away. All you have to do is tell me that Trump is evil. It doesn't have to be true. You tell me what I want to hear. All this goes away. Everything's fine after that. Come on. Everything's going to be great. Just tell me what I want to hear. Say it in front of the camera. And everything goes away and everything's just fine. That's why this was a RICO case. As far as what's in the video, I'm going to give people a hard reality. And this is going to be a hard reality for Democrats, and this is going to be a hard reality for MAGA. Jenna Ellis was either lying in 2020 about what she believed and what she knew and the evidence that she had in front of her, or she's lying now to the attorneys in the video that got released, with no knowledge of whether or not it was under oath, by the way. In one of the two of these, she's lying. And most of you are going to make the decision as to which one of those two based on your biases, based on partisan beliefs that you carry. But what I'm going to tell you as well is if I was on a jury or if I was an attorney, I would call that enough grounds to have any testimony that she makes stricken from the record, especially if it directly contradicts public statements that she's made at the time. You can't believe this witness. And furthermore, as I said before, as a RICO case, I would actually stand up in front of the courtroom, grab the microphone just like I did here and say, yeah, I guarantee you some prosecutor came up to Jenna Ellis and said, hey, you just tell us what it is that we want to hear and we make this all go away. You want this all go away, don't you? Don't you? You can go back to practice law. You'll be famous. You want this to go away, don't you? In other Trump news, because this is a year between 2015 and 2029 by this point, we've got to talk about that. Trump says special counsel Jack Smith and others will end up in a mental institution if he's reelected. From Rebecca Shabbat. For the record, former President Trump does not have the ability to do this if he's reelected. So take that as what you will. Former President Trump warned on Monday that Special Counsel Jack Smith and other Justice Department officials will wind up in a mental institution if he is reelected as president next year. In a comment on Truth Social, Trump called Smith former Justice Department official Andrew Weissman and U.S. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco a team of losers and misfits from CREW, an ethics watchdog group. He also attacked all the rest of radical left zealots and thugs who have been working illegally for years to take me down. They will end up, Trump said, suffering from a horrible disease, Trump derangement syndrome, in a mental institution. By the time my next term as president is successfully completed, make America great again. Part of this, I think, is him just showing off that he can, based on the fact that the gag order is suspended for freedom of speech. There is no constitutional purview for the President of the United States to directly put a citizen into the mental institution. He has to go through all the avenues and channels of the DOJ who will be working against him, of the FBI who will be working against him. And in the case of Smith, to whichever local jurisdiction he's decided to hide in, which will also be working against him. No, he does not have the ability to do that. Trust me, MAGA people, if he did, then a lot more of you would be facing down the barrel of a trip to the loony bin for the things that you've said about Joe Biden. No, the president doesn't have the ability to do that. But because of this, Jack Smith urges reinstatement of Trump gag order in 2020 election case from Aaron Doherty. Federal prosecutors argued in a Tuesday filing that former President Trump's long history of inflammatory speech justifies the restoration of a narrow gag order in the federal 2020 election interference case. Special counsel Jack Smith's team wrote that Trump has persistently used social media to make prejudicial comments about the case and its participants. They argued that there's been a pattern stretching back years in which people publicly targeted by the defendants are, as a result, subject to harassment, threats, and intimidation. The court filing references, well, again, I like the MAGA people, but I will point out that that's because that's a lot of the behavior that they took over when they left the Democrat Party. Democrats have no problem coming out, calling you out, harassing you, making it so that you can't go to work if you espouse an opinion that they don't like. Smith's office also said Trump has taken advantage of administrative stays to engage in targeting of witnesses, as well as prosecutors and their families. The partial gag order is temporarily on hold after Trump's lawyers had asked the court to lift it, arguing that it muzzled President Trump's core political speech. Look, if you're running for the president, is it intelligent for you to go back and do this kind of thing against the person who's prosecuting you? No, it's not. Is it helpful in any way to your case to say that you're going to do something outside your presidential purview to your political enemies? No, it's not. Is it really fucking funny? Yes, absolutely. And is it funny to watch Jack Smith squirm because there's nothing he can do about it? Yes. Yes, it is. Alright, what do we have? Respect the endeavor to teach, so thanks for that. Huh? If I didn't have an N on internet contact, I wouldn't have much contact at all. Yes, you can use caps in the Rumble chat. You actually can't do that in the Twitch chat. Yeah, all you need is someone to report you. Then you get put on a list. Again, you still have to deal with local authorities, though. Many of whom, especially if Jack Smith goes and hides in New York, like I think he's going to, they won't go and work with the Trump admin for that. All right, let's talk impeachment. From Newsweek, Jim Jordan outlines timeline for Joe Biden impeachment inquiry probe. Rachel Dobkin reporting for Newsweek. Jim Jordan, an Ohio Republican, said Sunday the House will make a decision on whether to bring charges of impeachment against President Biden by early next year. In an election year, by the way. I wonder where they learned that from. Zelensky. Perfectly phone call. Excuse me. Sorry, I had something in my throat there. The House Oversight Committee is currently conducting an inquiry into the Biden family after then House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, a Republican from California, announced the investigation in early September. At the center of the Biden impeachment inquiry is his alleged involvement in his son Hunter's foreign business dealings. The White House has repeatedly denied the president ever had any involvement in his son's businesses. And yet, They keep moving the goalposts on that. Hunter has been asked to appear for a deposition on December 13th. Jim Biden is expected to attend a deposition on December 6th, and Walker is scheduled for November 29th. Jim Jordan, a member of the Oversight Committee, outlined a timeline for the probe into Biden family during an interview on Sunday Morning Features with host Maria Bartiromo. I believe we will get depositions and interviews done this calendar year, then make a decision early next year whether they're actual, the evidence warrants going through the articles of impeachment and moving to that stage of the investigation, the Republican told Bartiromo. We have a constitutional duty to do oversight. We're now in the impeachment inquiry phase of our oversight duty. We're driven by the facts. We're driven by the evidence, not by the politics like the Democrats when they're attacked by President Trump, Jordan said, which is, of course, why they're doing this at the very beginning of an election year. Impeachment is political. Oddly enough, though, Republicans against Trump are the ones that are taking the victory lap of this one. Speaker Mike Johnson told House Republicans in a closed-door meeting that there's insufficient evidence at the moment to initiate formal impeachment proceedings against President Biden, the Washington Post reports. Well, a part of that is because they're going through the depositions right now, but I don't think he's going to bring a vote to the floor. I'm like 50-50 on it. I'm not going to say that's my official prediction yet, but I'm leaning towards the fact that he's not going to. Johnson faces MAGA fury, also from Newsweek. Natalie Venegas. Oh, look, they have a fairness meter. Who's judging the fairness? Newly elected House Speaker Mike Johnson is facing fierce backlash from MAGA online after he indicated there's insufficient evidence to move forward with the formal impeachment proceedings. Since September, momentum behind the impeachment effort has waned as House Republicans have not put forth any direct evidence. Oh, jeez. Oh, that's bullcrap. That Biden profited from his son Hunter's work, despite the House Oversight Committee chairman Jim Comer's recent announcement about the president receiving a $200,000 loan repayment from his brother James. In a Friday report from the Washington Post, Johnson, who has publicly and privately been urging members to conduct a thorough and fair investigation with no predetermined outcome, indicated in a closed-door meeting with House GOP moderates this week that there's insufficient evidence at the moment to move forward. We'll just go where the evidence goes. We're not there yet, Don Bacon of Nebraska told the newspaper. Most of us are saying we can't even get a single Democratic vote on this right now. Well, you're never going to, by the way. I think the voters will reject what they're seeing when it comes to Biden policy, but high crimes and misdemeanors, I don't think that we've seen enough of that or enough data to really make a good case, and I feel like Johnson really agreed with us on that. You can come out and show Joe Biden receiving an envelope that says bribe on it from Xi Jinping himself, and you'll still get no Democrat to vote for this, just so you know. So this is an interesting case that I want to go over here. One of the Krappensteins, Brian Krappenstein, by the way, in one of the more inflammatory posts that I've seen him put out, says, it turns out the FBI agent seized Mayor Eric Adams' electronic devices this week. It appears that this is a part of a federal corruption investigation into his 2021 campaign. Notice that Democrats aren't pushing to defund the FBI, because it's Biden's FBI going after another Democrat, by the way. Democrats are not claiming this is a witch hunt, which it is. Democrats aren't saying the FBI is a Republican organization, which it's not. It's the enforcement arm of the Biden admin, and Mayor Adams has stepped outside of that fray. Grant says, whenever Mike Johnson comes up, I keep thinking it's a fake internet screen name meant to sound like My Johnson. Well, I know that Speaker Johnson is actually a very, very good friend with another guy named Michael, whose last name is Hunt. Let's see. Democrats aren't claiming that the deep state is after Adams, which it is, by the way. Democrats are embracing the investigation and whatever it finds because Mayor Adams stepped outside the line and criticized the Biden admin about his immigration policies. What do they find? FBI is investigating whether Turkish government benefited from Adams' 2021 mayoral campaign. Federal authorities are looking into whether the Turkish government benefited from donations to Eric Adams' mayoral campaign. Turkey. According to unnamed sources, then candidate Adams was asked by Turkish officials in September 2021 to help keeping the opening of the Turkive Center, a 35-story new home of the Turkish consulate on the east side, on schedule. At that point, Adams had won the Democratic primary but was not yet elected mayor. But it was a foregone conclusion if he had won the Democratic primary. So, they gave him a donation and asked to make sure that the consulate that was already being built stayed on schedule. And this is what they're investigating him over? Are you fucking kidding me? Jeez. Don't you dare criticize the Biden admin, otherwise you're going to wind up on a list just like this. For Jan 6 people. FBI SWAT team on the hunt for ex-National Guardsman wanted on January 6 charges. He's wanted on January 6 charges. They know who he is. Gregory Yetman was identified in early 2022 by online sedition hunters and was named in a USA Today story this year. Let's see. In early 2022, we are now, it's 11/14 of 23, which means we're in the last couple months of 23, which means for 2 years they've known who this person is. Didn't bring him in for questioning, didn't do anything else off of this. But hey, as the January 6th story starts coming out of the news, oh hey, we got another one. Let's make another headline about this one. From Jonathan Dienst and Ryan J. Riley. Federal authorities are searching for former New Jersey National Guard police sergeant wanted on charges related to the January 6th Selfie Fest. Online sleuths who go by the name Sedition Hunters sound really fair. I mean, this is Third Reich shit right here. Have known Gregory Yetman's identity since early 22, referring to him by the nickname Green Heavy Sprayer because he was seen in January 6th video using a large sprayer on law enforcement at the Capitol, they told NBC News. Mind you, these are the people who would stand outside when the Stasi came around and say, hey, Anne Frank is in the attic. And then call you a Nazi. They told NBC News the FBI posted photos of Green Heavy Sprayer on its Capitol Violence page, referring to him as 278 AFO, meaning he was wanted for assault on federal officers. Yetman was named in a story in the USA Today, also on the enforcement arm of the Biden admin, this year and gave an interview to the paper in which he admitted to being at the Capitol on January 6th, but insisted he wasn't the man seen spraying the officers. In a statement, the FBI's field office in Newark said FBI, Newark SWAT, Jamesburg Police, and the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office are currently searching for a man named Gregory Yetman, wanted in connection with the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol in Helmetta, New Jersey, and we're asking the public with information on his whereabouts. Call the FBI Newark. And they did find him. So he is in, waiting on questioning. He's already appeared in court, where I'm sure he'll get a fair trial. Federal court in Trenton. At least it's in his hometown. The Guard member surrendered in Monroe Township, to Monroe Township Police on Friday, 2 days after fleeing his home, as authorities tried to serve him with an arrest warrant. That in and of itself is ill-advised. I don't condone the federal government using the force that they have against you. But if you go back and run, there's a good chance that they kill you. As of right now, with the Constitution still being intact, and I don't know if it's going to be come Election Day 2024, but with the Constitution still being intact, you can use the lawyers to work your way through most of the stuff. If you run, you're kind of screwed. I don't like it any better than anything else, but again, like it's the reason I actually pull over when I get stopped in traffic. Because anything that they throw at me, my lawyer can take care of. Whether it's right or wrong. Alright, we gotta fly through some of this stuff here. Because we got things I like and things that I hate, and we're already at 1 hour 41. Update from the National Manifesto. Stephen Crowder says, just in! Metro Department of Law has released a summary outlining the court proceedings related to why they have yet to release the Nashville Manifesto. November 9th, 2023, as Metro Police Department officers and detectives, along with Tennessee Bureau of Investigation officers, quickly arrived. On March 27th, the assailant's automobile was secured and inventoried. Officers recovered journals from the automobile containing writings of the assailant. Those became part of the criminal investigative file, pursuant to Rule 16 of the Tennessee Rules of Criminal Procedure. Records in a criminal investigative file are not subject to disclosure under the Tennessee Public Records Act until the investigation and any related case is complete. So basically they're coming out and saying that they couldn't do that because they're stretching out the investigation in spite of the fact that they know who did it, and that person is fucking dead. Basically, it's a way for them to get around putting it out there. All right, let's talk about the Joe Temkin Village. Credit to Styx for coming up with that terminology. And I liked it so much I used it here. Crime-ridden San Francisco cleaned up the streets for Biden-Xi visit. Aislinn Murphy reporting. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan faced questions on Monday about San Francisco tidying its streets in the lead up to the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. Fox Business correspondent Hillary Vaughn asked whether Biden was embarrassed that the American city needs to go through a total makeover to be presentable for his out-of-town guests. During the conference that kicked off on November 11th, Biden and Xi Jinping plan to get together to speak with each other. Fox News Digital has previously reported that meeting is apparently slated for midweek. Sullivan said that Biden was incredibly proud of the record the U.S. will bring as a host to the summit. APEC has 21 member countries, including the U.S., China, Russia, Mexico, and Canada. Does President Biden agree it's more important to oppress the leader of China than the American people that live in San Francisco and pay taxes every day? Vaughn further asked, which seems to be what's at the crux of this one. So, Fox Business isn't going over a lot of what's happening with this, but like they're sending hazmat teams, cleanup crews, restoration crews, anybody they can tap at this point to go clean up San Francisco and make it look like the shining, pristine jewel that they want the rest of the world to see it as. And the question, the rightful question at this point is, why are they only doing it because Xi Jinping is coming to town? And the better question is, does it go back to what it was? A human feces infested homeless encampment as soon as he's out the door? Or are they actually going to make an effort to keep it clean at this point? And then, of course, the other big question is why didn't they do this before? Why did they just let it go at this point? Now, understandably, the tourism from the APEC summit is going to bring in a ton of investment into San Francisco. It's going to bring a bunch of tourist dollars. It's going to bring a lot of foreign dignitary money going into the restaurants and everything else that go with that. I mean, the restaurateurs of San Francisco are going to make bank off of this. But do we go back to business as usual after this? And again, why only now? The honest question is right there and was mentioned in this article. Why are they doing more for a foreign dignitary than they are to the people who actually pay taxes to this government? And I don't know the answer to that, other than the fact that I don't think that they care. The Wall Street Journal opinion reflects this. San Francisco cleans up for she, why not for thee? This op-ed comes from James Freeman. This is not necessarily the opinion of the Wall Street Journal. Turns the Pages Productions, Contemporary, or your host, Jay Edgar. But let's read a bit of this one. After only recently agreeing to normalize trade relations with the U.S., San Francisco now seems to be granting the most favored visitor status to a group including a ruthless dictator. This week, Chinese Communist thug Xi Jinping will enjoy a city that's been spruced up for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. San Francisco residents are asking why they can't enjoy the streets that are safe and clean all the time. Mayor Breed, who faces difficult re-election campaign next year, and other officials in the admin hope APEC is an opportunity to begin rehabilitating the city's battered reputation. The city's national and international image has been worn down by incessant headlines about public drug markets, homelessness, vacant downtown offices, an exodus of major retailers, and brazen property crimes. Oh, and you know that there are going to be a lot of pop-up shops that come onto these vacant offices. The mayor will be well on her way to re-election if she convinces residents that the city's problems are merely reputational and that incessant headlines are the real villains, except for the fact that people actually live there. It's just like when people say, oh, the economy is great, and all the headlines and everything, and then forget the fact that people go to the grocery store. For this week, it seems the city is suddenly and miraculously able to navigate the alleged legal impediments to maintaining public spaces. The Chronicle report continues. Out of the conference, the city tried to be aggressive about clearing homeless tent camps while working within the bounds of federal injunction that limits San Francisco's ability to conduct encampment sweeps without offering adequate shelter. In addition to trying to move people out of some of the prominent encampments, hotspots like the Tenderloin and Soma, the city embarked on a beautification campaign ahead of APEC that included peeling back the scaffolding on the Ferry Building, washing grime off the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art's upper floors, and decorating crosswalks in North Beach and Chinatown. So, it'll be interesting for sure. And it'll be interesting too, just a bit, on how this affects the politics. Like, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, if it was me, and I lived in this crap hole, and for whatever reason stayed in this crap hole, and then they just suddenly cleaned it up for a foreign dignitary, I wouldn't vote for that party again. Fuck that. Oh, you didn't give a damn about me while I was here paying taxes, but hey, once the Chi Comps come in, you actually want to do the things I've been begging for 10 years at this point? Fuck that. Now, me, I would have gotten out of there already at this point. I would have gotten as far away from that crap hole as possible. But there are people who think that they can't move outside of 5 miles away from where they grew up. Alright. Let's talk about the foreign war that's actually come a bit out of the headlines at this point. CBS New York reporting, Grand Central Station briefly shut down as a large group of pro-Palestinian demonstrators marches through Manhattan. Alicia Reed reporting, Grand Central was briefly shut down Friday due to a large demonstration outside in support of Palestinians. Several people were taken into custody. NYPD sources tell us police are becoming increasingly concerned with hostility over the Israel-Hamas war and the number of rallies held across the city. At Grand Central, access was denied after a large group of demonstrators made its way across town, stopping at many locations before ending at the station, where police had the doors locked. It started at Columbus Circle at the edge of Central Park. It's too many of them dying, way too many, one demonstrator said. Demonstrators, of course, called for a ceasefire in Gaza. That's going to be a common theme across the next few articles that we have here. Everyone should just do their part. I feel like everyone should just understand that this is human lives, demonstrator Chrissy Perez said. I support that. I'm anti-war because it is human lives. But these same people, if you tell them that you want a ceasefire in Ukraine so we can come back and sort this out, they'll call you a pro-Putin puppet. As far as the demonstration goes, number one, it is good that the police were able to get Grand Central locked and shut down before the protests got inside, because if these people came in and started vandalizing and making Grand Central Station inoperable, I mean, that shuts down just about the entire island of Manhattan. So that's one good aspect to what they did here. But this started out as a peaceful protest. This started out as a peaceful demonstration, calling for a ceasefire. And as you get the pro-Hamas in there, you start to get a little bit of monkey see, monkey do. And when the pro-Hamas start lighting fires, throwing bricks, etc., the herd mentality kicks in, and everybody else comes in and starts to support it. I mean, we saw the same thing on January the 6th. Were a few bad apples at the front either were let in or busted their way into the Capitol. And then several dozen other people followed them in with the door held open and then stood around in the rotunda in the video that they don't want you to see and looked around and said, "What do we do now?" Some of the things that they did with this, of course, from the New York Post: anti-Israel protesters swarm Grand Central, spatter flake blood on New York Times building. There's a certain irony to that. And set Israel flag ablaze, from Stephen Vago and Patrick Riley. The mob was part of a Flood Manhattan for Gaza protest that initially converged on Columbus Circle earlier in the evening, where they set fire to an Israeli flag and taunted a small faction of counter-demonstrators before marching through Manhattan and splattering fake blood on the New York Times building. "We don't want a Jewish state, we want 48, the anti-Israel protesters chanted at the starting point, referring to Palestine before the establishment of Israel. "Settlers, settlers, go back home. Palestine is ours alone," the crowd yelled. "It is right to rebel. Israel, go to hell," others chanted. Midget, where were you while this was going on? Across the street stood a small group of Israel supporters. Bergen County resident Gregory Yatz, 56, said he found it offensive that they're here chanting for the elimination of Israel. Well, welcome to the far left wing of the Democrat Party. Again, I find the full irony of the fake blood on the New York Times building, who was supposed to be a part of their cause. Bit of update on the ground over there. Israel calls on Hamas to surrender Shifa hospital base as U.S. strikes Iran proxies in Syria. There's a live update. I'm going to skip this one. CNN says doctors race to save newborns as Israel says it's battling Hamas around Gaza's largest hospital. Now, before I read into this, reminder, fog of war. CNN does have an agenda. The U.S. government does have an agenda with this. Israel has an agenda with this. Palestine has an agenda. In the information that comes across here. An article like this could easily be total bullshit. As easily as it could be real. Hamdi Aikshali, Joe Shelley, Helen Reagan, Abir Salman, and Kareem Cotter reporting for CNN. Premature babies at Gaza's largest hospital are being wrapped in foil and placed next to hot water in a desperate bid to keep them alive in catastrophic conditions. The hospital director warned as Israeli firepower pounds surrounding streets and remaining fuel reserves dry up, leaving the facility unable to function. Staff at the Al-Shifa hospital were fighting to keep newborns alive and warm after oxygen supplies ran out and they had to move the babies by hand from the neonatal unit's incubators to a different part of the hospital. Meanwhile, a reporter for the Al Arabiya network who was inside the hospital told CNN that people were trapped there, too scared to flee due to the heavy fighting. Couple things on this. Number one, war is hell. And it does push people to do things that they probably normally wouldn't do under any other circumstance. But there is an agenda with this conflict. This is part of the reason that I haven't focused on it, on contemporary, since it started. Instead, looking at what's domestic for us. I mean, I didn't even cover the fact that the shutdown comes in 5 days. Come next week, we'll actually be having a conversation about whether or not the government's going to be shutting down. But that is because I don't know what's true and what's not coming out of this. It's the same instinct that I have about the Ukraine conflict. The anti-Biden people are saying that Russia is completely stomping the crap out of the Ukraine, and the pro-Biden people are telling us that the Ukraine has all but taken Moscow at this point because of the fog of war. We only see the photos that get transmitted around the rest of the world. I am not saying for a second that this isn't what's happening. I'm saying I don't know. And I'm going to be fully honest with that too. Leftoids and pro-Palestinians have an agenda to paint Israel as the bloodthirsty occupiers of this stretch of land. Israel and its allies in the U.S. have an agenda to paint the Palestinians as bloodthirsty, almost animalistic in nature. To pull various forces from around the world onto their side. But that is the reporting, is that Israel is currently attacking a hospital. And the Gazans are trying to save newborn babies. Let's grab one. I don't know if the Mogwai is still here, but let's grab one from his senator over here, Lindsey Graham, who's having a definite case of broken clock syndrome. I will not vote for one dime to another country, including Israel, until we secure our own border. Your voting record says otherwise, Lindsey Graham. Let's listen now.
This is the same administration that is having more illegal immigrants cross our border illegally than all presidents combined. They don't know what they're doing on the border. They don't know what they're doing when it comes to bad guys. If you had Donald Trump as president, we would secure the border tomorrow. People would listen to him in Mexico and other places because they're afraid of him. If he were president of the United States, this stuff with Iran would end. The only thing that works with bad guys is to be strong. Our border is broken. Our policies don't work. It's a matter of time till a bunch of Americans get killed. I will not vote for one dime for any country, including Israel, until we first secure our own border. This is the same administration that has had...
Yeah, but again, history tells a different story. What did Castleback say in Gone in 60 Seconds? The detective. Bureau runs on history and statistics. They don't run on hunches. So. Oh, that post got deleted, so we're going to skip over that. But allegedly, pro-Israeli crowd chants no ceasefire after U.S. House Speaker says the calls for a ceasefire are outrageous. There are so many memes that I could not even begin to show you because I am on a Google-owned platform as my primary. Suffice it to say, Mike Johnson is in a very, very rough spot in and of itself with where he's at right now. An interesting one, and I am going to close on... No, I'm not going to close on this one before we go into things I like and things I like, because I do want to talk about this one here, just because it's hilarious. But an interesting turn of events, though. Apparently, there's a big feud, and I think that a lot of it is to sell clicks. But apparently, Benny Boy here and Candace Owens are in a big feud because Candace is not towing the Israeli line in this conflict. Autumn Groiper, God help me, I'm using a Groiper as a news source. Fuentes still has me blocked, by the way. One of my favorite things to ever happen, to get blocked by fucking Fuentes. But Autumn Groiper says Ben Shapiro slams colleague at Real Candace O for her absolutely disgraceful behavior in front of a visibly shocked audience. Shapiro goes on saying her faux sophistication is the issue. It's ridiculous. I don't care for Ben because he's a war hawk and he wants to use the entire might of the U.S. military to make sure that there are no Ishmaelites ever in existence for the rest of time. And I don't like Candace Owens, and I've made this point very clear. Like, I'll actually still listen to Ben because I trust his legal fare when there is a big legal case going on. I will not give Candace Owens the time of day. Doxing, even self-doxing, is one of my big triggers. I don't deal with it. And that is what Candace Owens got famous for, is anybody that disagreed with her on, at the time, Twitter, got doxed. Because she couldn't handle criticism. And that's how she chose to deal with it. I cannot stand Candace Owens. But let's listen to what Benny Boy has to say.
Yes, the question is about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. I think it's yeah, and she still works for my company. And I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
You hired her. That's all I have to say about that. So, they've apparently unfollowed each other on social media. I don't know if she's going to get... Because, like, Ben was just touting her, too. Because, you know, during the Trump indictments and the trial dates, I've actually been listening to Ben, again, for the lawfare. And he was all in on whatever this... I don't know what just happened over on my left screen. Chrome is having all kinds of issues right now. I'll tell you that right now. Like, he was all in on the documentary that Candace just did about the making of a murderer case that came out of Wisconsin. And I can't even pronounce it because I know the correct way to pronounce it. But the way that he constantly mispronounced Manitowoc. How is it? Manitowok? No, that's not how he did it either. But yeah, apparently there was enough of a fight between the two of them that they're on each other's throats. And the last one, then we're going to start closing the show here. I know I'm way over time. This was a big one. From the Hill, GOP senator challenges Teamsters president to fight during hearing. This only happened a few hours ago, by the way. This one. Alexander Bolton reporting at 12:36 p.m. today. That's Eastern Time. Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, a former MMA fighter, nearly came to blows with the president of the Teamsters at a Senate hearing Tuesday, forcing Bernie Sanders to step in to stop a brawl from breaking out in the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee room. Mullins challenged International Brotherhood of Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien to fight on the spot after the senator read aloud O'Brien's tweets calling him out as a clown and a fraud. Let's watch.
Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
Oh,
guy.
stop it.
Is that your solution every
Stop it!
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold
Chairman?
it. Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can't, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. God knows the American people have enough of contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and bullies.
You have,
And that's
you
what-
have
I don't
the
like
mic.
you because you
Hold
just
it.
described yourself.
Hold it. You have the mic.
Yeah.
You have time.
All right.
Make your statement.
Then let's do this. Because I did challenge you and I accepted your challenge. And you went quiet.
No, I didn't go quiet. I was.
Hold on.
No,
You challenged me to a cage match,
No,
acting like a
sir.
12-year-old schoolyard
Hold it.
bully.
Excuse
Sir,
me.
hold on.
Hold it. No, excuse me. I have the
I
mic.
will say exactly.
Senator
what he
Mullen,
said.
I have the mic. You have questions on any economic issues, anything that said, go for it. We're not here to talk about physical abuse.
You brought.
We're not
him
talking
in.
about. Of course, I
And,
did.
and let
He's-
me show you his hearing because I want to expose this thug to who he is. And
If you don't point at me, that's disrespectful.
I don't care about respecting you at all. I
I don't
respect
respect you at all.
So
All right, hold it.
let me
Hold it. No.
You're one of
Yeah,
100 of the most
hold
elite
it,
people.
please.
Act it.
Please. All right. This is a. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hearing to discuss economic issues. All right. If you have questions for Mr. O'Brien or anybody else on what he has said, go for it. But we're not here to talk about fights.
I don't know why I agree with Bernie on anything, but I do. As much as I would love to see Markwayne Mullin and Sean O'Brien in a cage together, mano a mano, I think that would be absolutely hilarious. What does it accomplish? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing gets done out of it. I mean, that's how the Senate normally runs, but at least they make an attempt to say, oh, we're going to do something. This is House of Representatives behavior, and this is stuff I want to see out of the House, by the way. Absolutely. But the Senate was supposed to always be a bit more cordial. But, I mean, that's hilarious in and of itself. So, alright, that is our news for the day. Let's do the closing. We're going to put that in a separate window this time. So we've got rules of acquisition and things I like and things that I hate today. So I've skipped the rules of acquisition for 2 weeks. Apologize for that. I was running short on time on Halloween, and with everything else that was going on last week when I started late, I completely forgot to set it up. So the last time we talked about the rules of acquisition, 3 weeks ago, we did the 227th rule of acquisition. If that's what's written, then that's what's written. It's from Star Trek Online. Make your own determination whether or not it's canon. We move on to the 229th rule of acquisition, which is definitely from canon because it's from a DS9 episode. Latinum lasts longer than lust. Look, I am not the guy who can tell you to sit on your hands and not pursue either the romance or the umaks. Remember, the 223rd, beware the man who doesn't take the time for umaks. But while you're going out and pursuing what it is you're pursuing, remember, your investments, you still have to take care of those. You can't go blow all your money trying to go pick up a piece of ass. In the 50% hopes that you actually get there. You do have to keep a little bit of seed in there. That is a bad analogy. But you do have to keep your finances in order. Because the empire you build, even if you do never get hitched, the empire you build will last longer than most of the insignificant flings. That's where they say the latinum lasts longer than the lust. So, trust me, I can tell you it's fun to run back out and womanize. I did it for a long time. Part of the reason I tell people I used to suck. But the long-term security that I'm starting to feel now, at this point, is much more enjoyable. Well, I can name names. But do make sure that what you have, what you're working towards, still grows while you chase the umaks, as they say in the 223rd. Let's do a couple things I like and a few things that I hate. Thing that I like today, and I promised, by the way, Stephanie that I would use her tweet for this here. But do we have bad news for Eric? Because Eric Rader says the right wing is skilled at distraction. Glad the voters are choosing people who, like the American Foundation of Teachers, care about common sense solutions. And this is in response to an article from Axios saying, what's behind the increase in homeschooling? Well, the reason I have this on things that I like is the fact that there is an increase in homeschooling, because year after year, month after month, decade after decade, we see our test scores decline. We see people have fewer and fewer opportunities because the education doesn't prepare you to actually live in the real world. I mean, I know the meme goes around there about the end of graduation time every year that says, oh, well, I never learned how to apply for a loan or pay taxes or anything else like that that's useful in high school, but sure, I learned Pythagoras' theorem. Number one, no, you didn't. Because if you're making that complaint, you probably peaked at general math. Number one. But there is an incessant dumbing down of our educational system because things like No Child Left Behind, to where parents are taking matters into their own hands. Now, homeschooling now, and something I'm a big advocate for now, is not like homeschooling when I was a kid, or it was typically just a religious parent whose kid got bullied and said, I can do better, I can teach from the Bible, I can do this, I can do that, all kinds of things like that, with no real resources as to do it with. Here's the reality, and I'll use the iPhone with a dead battery again, but you have access in your pocket right now to any piece of information on the planet. And we have resources right now to actually homeschool properly that we didn't have when I was a kid. Homeschool is a viable option at this point, and Now there are communities and groups that you can actually get together, do field trips, and do the socialization thing that so many people, again, in my age of homeschooling, were afraid of because the kids would never get socialized. Homeschooling is a viable thing, like it wasn't when I was a kid. And people are starting to see that. You don't need to wait around for the slow kids to go back and catch up. That was something that drove me nuts in high school. I have an eidetic memory. I was 2 to 3 years ahead of the other people my age, or right before they started doing the grade skip kind of thing, which I probably could have skipped at least one grade, I think. I don't want to toot my own horn off of this. Whereas with homeschool now especially, and with the fact that we went for a year of doing either online only or hybrid schooling, I mean, the kids can start to work at their own pace, and the ones that are flying ahead can actually fly ahead, apply themselves, and do things. I'm a big advocate for homeschooling, but I know the teachers union hates it, so that's why this article came about, and that's why the advocates for the teachers union are all up in arms over the fact that this article even exists. Other things that I like, the New York Post, which I got to refresh because please allow ads, and I didn't actually archive this one. OnlyFans rival FanView bets on porn's fake future. Meet Emily, the site's hottest eerily real AI model. So, and I mean, I can look at this woman and tell that this is not real, but I mean, a part of this is you get what you put in. For so long, these women have come out and said, well, I can make $1 million or however much it is that they make by giving the relationship experience to lonely incels who can't get into a relationship otherwise. And that's what OnlyFans is, by the way. It's the lonely incels who can't get into anything else, who feel like they have the girlfriend experience for paying $5, $10, $15 a month to a girl to get nudie photos because that's what they think the girlfriend experience is, and getting no other real release out of it. Now, of course, I am against AI porn, regular porn, etc. I'm against that. But now, not only do you have to compete, how do I put this a different way, for the OnlyFans models out there, like, you can't give, well, you can, but you're not willing to give something different than what these AI models are giving. A few pictures, a few words of affirmation. I mean, replica AI should have started to be the downfall of OnlyFans. I'm a little surprised that it isn't, but I mean, it's getting there. I've been curious about replica AI just to see how much of a real girlfriend experience that it is, but not enough to pay the money for it. I'll tell you that. I'm what's the word for what I am? Oh yeah, cheap. But again, tell me, OnlyFans model, what do you offer other than that? It's going to be interesting to see where the competition is and where it lands, because there is something to be said about realism. There is something to be said about that. Absolutely is. And I don't know what's going to win out in the end. I know that things like this are going to take some customers away, but I know that there are going to be people out there that say, oh, I only want the real thing and nothing else. So where will it go? I don't know, but it's hilarious to me to think that you're being competed with by something that was probably designed by a hairy guy in a basement somewhere. Think about that. And think about all the conversations about catfishing we had. Jezebel. Geo Media shuts down Jezebel as layoffs hit company. I had to laugh about this one. Coming from the Daily Beast, which is also owned, by the way, by Geo Media. Lackey and Cartwright, Corbin Bowles, and Justin Baragona. Jezebel was indefinitely suspended on Thursday as major layoffs hit Geo Media. The Daily Beast has learned. The layoffs will affect 23 people. CEO Jim Spanfeller confirmed in a memo to staff on Thursday. The Geo Media editorial director, Meryl Brown, has also exited the company. Unfortunately, our business model and audiences we serve across our network do not align with Jezebel's, Spanfeller wrote in the memo, and when it became clear, we undertook the expansive search for a new, perhaps better home that might ensure Jezebel a path forward. It became a personal mission of Leah Goldman, who worked tirelessly on the project, talking with over 24 potential buyers. It is a testament to Jezebel's heritage and bona fides that so many players are engaged us. Still, despite every effort, we could not find Jezebel a new home. Ha 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 ha. What's realistically happening here is, I mean, you can go to your own little spaces at this point and not get served an ad every 30 seconds or anything else to get the same man-hating material as you could be offered in Jezebel. But some of the, I mean, Jezebel was missing link media, but the legacy and missing link media are starting to die out. As Substacks take off, as other viable alternatives, and even independent journalism, citizen journalism starts to take off, there are people out there who are willing to fill the hole, which is probably, again, the worst allegory to use when talking about Jezebel, but to actually fill the hole that's going to be left behind by this. Like, the audience of Jezebel is not going to go without a man-hating publication. They'll make their own. And one of them will take off and make a bunch of money, and there probably will be a new one out there at some point here. But the fact that so many people banked on this for as long as they did, and it went nowhere. I mean, people are losing jobs by saying that nobody should be allowed to lose jobs and the government should come in and step in and provide everybody the ability to live comfortably while blogging about whatever it is that they want to blog about. It's just the irony in this. I don't like people losing jobs and losing gainful employment, but there is a certain irony in the fact that this particular publication was the one that went. And I know I still can't say this on YouTube, but you could always learn how to program a computer. Those jobs are still out there. Actually, no, those ones are not there either, because people are getting laid off for that. In a decision that was the right decision, of course, the appeals court says ATF exceeded authority with ghost gun rule. From Nick Robertson. A federal appeals court struck down Biden admin's limits on so-called ghost guns, affirming a lower court's ruling on Friday that the ATF didn't have the proper authority to change its rules. That's right, the legislature has to do that. The ATF rule change specified the definition of firearm and other terms in order to regulate the production and distribution of gun parts and kits that could be easily assembled by a consumer at home, avoiding regulation and requirements for serial numbers. Kurt Engelhardt led the Fifth Circuit in a unanimous decision throwing out the ATF rule. The agency rule at issue here floats a clear statutory text that exceeds the legislatively imposed limits on agency authority to name, in the name of public policy, he wrote. ATF, in promulgating its final rule, attempted to take the mantle of Congress to do something with respect to gun control, he continued, but it is not the province of an executive agency to write laws for our nation. That vital duty, for the better or for worse, lies solely with the legislature. Yes, it does. Now, obviously, again, I'm still going to be studying and figuring out where the laws are for Wisconsin when I get the kit and build my dream 1911. Still coming down the pipes, by the way. Still something I'm going to do. But again, if I build an exact replica of the Light and Shining Darkness from Fallout New Vegas, from the Honest Hearts DLC, if I build an exact replica of that, I want to make sure that I can continue to own that under federal law, and that doesn't get seized by an overly ambitious ATF agent and wind up in his bratty kid's collection. If I'm going to build it and spend the money on it, I would like to continue to own it. And the last one that I have here, Q Shaman. It's back in the news because he is running for Congress. Yes, you heard that right. Q Shaman Jacob Chansley, who served more than 2 years in prison for his role in the January 6th Selfie Fest, now wants to run for Congress. Jacob Chansley would like to return to the scene of his crime. Oh my God. The propaganda right there in the beginning of that sentence. Chansley rose to American infamy as the Q Shaman, becoming the face of the January 6th siege on the U.S. Capitol, which sent congressional lawmakers scrambling in fear to the exits. While he walked around calmly and prayed, by the way. Now he thinks he might like to work in the building he attacked. Chansley is considering running for U.S. Congress. Like, these people act like they didn't see the Tucker tapes, by the way. Chansley is considering running for U.S. Congress seat in the 2024 election, representing his home state of Arizona. So, he is not officially running. He's doing the exploratory committee thing. He, I believe, is going to run for the LP. And I wish him luck because they're not going to give him a cent. Because they, like, the LP, the party itself, the donor class, the delegates, etc., will not put money behind anybody who is MAGA. Whether or not Chansley actually is of that mindset and belief, I don't know. But I know that he's perceived as such. But just the scrambling and the crying and the wailing and the gnashing of teeth of the fact that this guy's even considered this was enough to make this absolutely hilarious to watch. So, good for Jacob Chansley. I wish you the best. I do hope that you do something with it, but I don't necessarily think that the LP is going to back you on this one. Let's do a few things that I hate. So, Hassan Mafi looks at this and says, innocent Israeli civilians walking around, both of them sporting an AK. That AK I'd actually like to own at some point. With the response of this, that they never were. Also, once you bear arms, you're no longer an innocent civilian. And that's the reason that I hate this. You can see that below this is actually the highlighted tweet. What are you? I agree to this to some extent. You're not an innocent civilian if you bear arms, because you actually have the ability to go back and give your government the finger when they come back and try to oppress you if you do bear arms. But that's not the point that this jackass was going with. The point that this jackass was going with is the fact that everybody should just come and fall in the line, and the government has your best interest at heart, and just don't question them. Don't think that you're going to raise arms to them or your neighbor or anybody else. You're an evil person if you ever want to arm up, and the sainted people of the government that I worship always are going to go out to protect you. That's bullshit. And then, of course, he calls that military-grade assault rifles, which, I mean, these are both AKs, actually. These AKs technically are military-grade assault weaponry. But one other thing to notice here is that these are actually members of the IDF Reserve, which means, yes, they are supposed to be carrying at the time. At all times. So that changes this too. I like this one here. What I'm hearing is you say is that you prefer terrorist victims to be defenseless. Good to know. Also, so the Ukrainians aren't innocent civilians anymore. Also good to point out. And this guy just got roundly ratioed on this. I do enjoy that, but the fact that that take actually exists, I hate that. Do some other things that I hate. This made the rounds today. Auburn Pub says the $2,000 dating rule to avoid frightful sex syndrome from men. Coming via the New York Post. Actually, I'm going to use the New York Post off of this now that I see that this came from the New York Post. I won't sleep with a man unless he spends $2,000 on me. Here's why. Jana Hawking, and they're calling this via news.com.au. It's a question as old as time. How long should you wait before you sleep together? As a woman, this question is particularly tricky. Not because we're supposed to be ladies. That view died as soon as Sex and the City girls knocked blokes over the head with news that yes, women enjoy getting jiggy just as much as they do. No, it's trickier for a woman because thanks to podcaster Joe Rogan, we've all heard about the frightful post-nut syndrome. Just in case you haven't, PNS involves a man experiencing some sort of guilt following climax, primarily over how they achieved. This feeling could be a result of having an affair, watching porn, or hooking up with someone they don't actually have genuine feelings for. Rogan explains it best saying, you realize you made a mistake, especially if a woman's really into you and you're just really not into her. You're like, oh, I made an error. And then you feel like an asshole. And I'm just being honest. I got tricked by genetics. So trust me when I say, as a woman, you don't want to be jumping into a bed with a guy too early, only for him to get the job done, experience PNS, and then vamoosh into thin air. I honestly think there's nothing more brutal than being ghosted after sex. Mortifying. So when I heard a brand new theory about how long you should wait before having sex, I leaned in. Now, quick disclaimer, when the answer was first put to me, I literally made the poof sound. Yes, be warned, it sounds ridiculous, but give it a second. Let that theory sink in, and you may eventually come around to it. I discovered last weekend during a road trip while listening to the great dating podcast by a woman called Tinks, yes, fabulous name. She was going through a list of dating non-negotiables and casually mentioned that a friend of hers now made a point of not sleeping with a guy until he spent at least $2,000 on dates with her. Yes, you read that right. Whopping $2,000. Has no one ever heard of the cost of living crisis? No longer we base the decision on time. We're basing it on cash money. So like I said, at first I was feeling a little outraged. Essentially, what they're going for with this, and I'm going to paraphrase the rest of this because I know we're over 2.5 hours at this point on record time, is that the expectation is that by a certain amount of dates, you're close enough to into a relationship where you know if the guy's going to stick around, hang around or not. The problem with this is that it, number one, all the ideas of world's oldest profession come right out here because you're making this transactional with a level of cash involved. An actual physical amount of money that you want to use on this. But furthermore, this comes to a level like when you're sitting in sugar daddy relationship or something, or you're going out with somebody who's actually like a doctor or something. A doctor can go back and do this in one date and then have PNS and then walk away from it. Or a lawyer, somebody who actually has a traditionally wealthy career. at that point, you kind of are hooking a little bit too. On the working class, like, it seemed like longer, honestly, but I was in my last relationship for 3 months. And I think in 3 months, I don't know that I total spent $2,000 on her. Part of that was because I had legitimately just moved and I was trying to offset the $10,000 I spent to move and build up a buffer off that. And I know inflation is going to fix this too. On dates and everything, I don't know if I spent $2,000 total, minus the ring, of course, the second time I was engaged on my fiance, and we were together for 2.5 years. I mean, for the working class, that is a bunch of cash. Yes, inflation included. Let's put this into perspective here. You're working class, like me. You make about 50-ish grand a year. A nice dinner out for you. Let's see. The last really nice dinner that I had was at the hibachi bar. I went on a date with a girl. And she brought a chaperone. That's a completely different stupid story that should never happen to begin with. But took her out for hibachi dinner. Got the lobster. She got the chicken. But I mean, total all in there, that was $120 plus the tip. And no, that tip didn't happen either. But $120. Now, say you both work full time on top of that. You only get to go out maybe once, twice a week. Tops. Saturday night, Sunday night. And assuming you spend that kind of cash on a date there, you're once a week. 20 weeks. That's 5 months. I mean, you've got couples that are planning to move in together before that point. And again, meanwhile, the director of hospital services at the major hospital in town can just snap his fingers and spend that on one bottle of Dom. So, and then that goes on top of the transactional nature of making this, which, I mean, I have a special discuss for that after the heroin addict that holed up in my house for 4 days that made everything transactional. Your Rogan impression is great. It's not an impression, man. You guys have ever tried DMT? So, and that's where they're coming off of this, too. I expect more of this as we go. Alright, a couple more things that I hate, and then I'm going to get out of here. Oh, looks like we won't be talking about the government shutdown because the House has passed the bill for it. We'll be talking about that next Tuesday. That's breaking news. But, and the thing that I hate today, well, that's something I hate too, I guess, but Tom Cotton demands Fed probe of New York Times, CNN, and other outlets after freelancers accused of working with Hamas. No. Bad. That is wrong. You are a small government entity, or small government politician, Tom Cotton. That is wrong. That is bad. I don't care what your reasoning is off of this. If they're doing espionage for Hamas, try them for espionage. But to do a probe into a media company, as much as I hate the New York Times and CNN, to do a probe into them because you think they might be working with the enemy, that sounds an awful lot like using the DOJ to go after your political enemies. And outlets, by the way, that have written a lot of critical things about you. You know that thing we're criticizing the Biden admin for? So, no. 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 Wrong. Bad. Bad, 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 bad. from Fox Weather. Come on. Give me my headline. Solar superstorm could wipe out the internet for weeks or months, scientists say. Weeks or months, you say? Hillary Andrews reporting for Fox Weather. We may marvel at the northern lights, but that same solar storm energy could one day create what one researcher described as an internet apocalypse. I wonder if that's going to come right in time for next November. Realistically, for a tip, write down some recipes, get some cash together. Because if the internet goes down, your debit card isn't going to work, and whatever you have in digital assets in the bank, you're going to be screwed for. Full out. But you should always be prepared for the internet to be out for whatever reason, as you need to. But I hear things like this as we're barreling down what the media is telling us is the most crucial election in history. And there is the believable plausibility that something like this could knock out the internet. We've been hearing about it since we were kids. A massive EMP because of a solar storm. I mean, satellite and other internet things have been affected, even cable, by sunspots for as long as there's been cable and as long as there's been TV. I mean, this is nothing new. But also, we hear something like this, and then the next thing we hear is, oh, well, we can't give you the results of our election until many, many days or months after that. Oops. Sorry. Oh, I guess that Joe Biden won again. Oh, it's a mystery how that happened. Don't look too close. And if you try to count the ballots by hand, you're a conspiracy theorist. Get the other live chat up here. Maybe Grant was making another comment about Mike Johnson. Alright, last couple things, then I want to head out of here for the day. So, I'm going to use the X from my future wife. There's one silver lining to this, by the way. But shoe on head. Guys, should I ask Shoe out? Somebody call KTZed and ask if I should ask Shoe out. Anyway, Shoe on head. Tweets out, X is out rather. Says, I've seen rad femmes less misandressed than this. If you're not with someone you enjoy being around, what are you doing? Men are capable of love and connection, companionship. Perhaps I'm wrong and I've been misled by my positive experiences. Bellas, do you feel love? Well, I feel love for Shoe on Head. I do enjoy Shoe on Head's content. When Shoe started getting really big, I made the joke because she has dark hair and light eyes that I should just ask her out. But I had, until very recently, I actually hadn't listened to Shoe's content. A couple months ago, I changed that, and I do somewhat enjoy it. There are some things that I disagree with Shoe on, but I do actually enjoy the content, so she got a subscriber out of me off of this. But the tweet that's been going around, the X rather, that's been going around, and I'm very glad that people are actually screen capping this and criticizing it rather than staying on the post and re-Xing the post. Because I have a theory as to why people like this do this. But H. Pearl Davis says, do men wake up and think, wow, I just wish I could have some more quality time with my woman today? No, with a laughing face emoji. Be real, they want sex, silence, and a sandwich. Having been engaged 3 times, I'm going to tell you this woman is full of shit. I can't speak for every man. Any more than she can, honestly. In spite of my last girlfriend being nuts, I enjoyed the time that I did spend with her. While I knew that we weren't going to last for a while, the time that I had with my last fiance, my third fiance, was enjoyable. I tried to convince a girl to move across the state with me when I moved most recently, because I enjoyed the time that I spent with her so much. There are a few. There's the one that got away. I wish I could spend more quality time with, but yeah. Now, realistically, I can make 2 phone calls right now and have sex, silence, and a sandwich. I don't want that anymore. I want to have a bunch of kids, have a wife that actually challenges me. So no, that's, and I do know, and I understand that there are men out there that do want the sex, silence, and a sandwich. I do. They exist. But this is the kind of thing too, and one of the reasons that I hate this so much is that, like, this is the kind of post that goes out there and gets put out there because people go back and interact with it because they want to go back and call this woman a bitch, which I kind of think that she is. I don't necessarily think that she even believes half the bullshit that she spews, and I've been seeing this account around. I don't follow this account, but I've been seeing this account for quite a while, especially with that nice pretty blue check mark up there on it. It's part of the reason that I said I'm kind of glad that this is going around as a screen cap, and I think more people need to do more of this. Take the screen cap and share it around instead of trying to interact with this woman directly, because X serves out advertisements on the tweet threads that you're interacting with. The more you engage with crap like this, no matter how outrageous it is, the more money that this woman makes. It's the same with the Krappensteins. It is the same with Jersey, My Wife's Son Reliant. It is the same with JoJo from Joy's, or the Sissons, or the Victor Shees, or everybody else. Literally the only reason that I put the Victor Shee posts in the Discord is because he usually puts video with them and I want to watch the video. But like anything else I would do, if I did want to go out and criticize it, I would screen cap it. Because he makes money every time one of the cons comes in and thinks they're going to own him. And then he sends his little army of bots back after them. Because the more views each one of those posts get, the more money he makes and gets paid out. And realistically, that's what this woman is doing. So, there is that avenue to things. And the last one thing that I hate, I'm not going to go into the Hill article with that, but the X says it all. Pink to give away banned books at Florida tour stops. Which is interesting because if she can get possession of the books, they're not banned. And a lot of people came out and pointed this out in the Hills X for this. Did she get arrested for giving away the banned books? Where did she get these banned books from? How do you give away something that's banned? If they're banned, how does she have them to give away? No, she is making a political statement, and she's making a political statement by giving away child pornography and how-to manuals on to fornicate to 10, 11, and 12-year-olds at her tour stops. Now, she is spending her own money off of this. The big issue that most parents on the right have with this, and the Florida legislature, is making sure that the school at a taxpayer-funded venue doesn't give them away. What Alicia Moore does with her own money is her own business. She makes a bunch of it. She's been on a bunch of tours since I was 18 when she first came out. So she's got a bunch of money. If she wants to go blow her money on the filth that she's calling banned books, have at it. If parents want to accept these banned books and bring them into their home, realistically, it's between them and their child. I do think CPS should get involved at some point. But realistically, it is between them and their kids, as disgusting as it is. I hope some of these parents see through this and see through the grift that this is and the virtue signal that this is But these books are not banned. You can go out into Amazon and get these books in Kindle format or in hard copy. You can probably go into Barnes and get a bunch of them. You can walk into a Barnes and walk out with a case of them. You can order them directly from the publisher. Do you know why you can order them directly from the publisher? Because they're not fucking banned. The people just don't want the taxpayer-funded venue to give them out. Somebody made an interesting comparison to that one, because one of the replies to Mira, friend of the show, Millennial Other, one of the replies was, well, you can't smoke cigarettes inside of a school. Does that mean that they're banned? Well, they're not banned because I can go down to the mini mart and go grab another pack of fucking cigarettes. If they were banned, I'd have to go out on the street corner to somebody who had a bunch of cigarettes inside of his jacket and pay cash for them. Like they do with the other banned substances. But I can walk right down to the Quick Trip, put a $10 bill and a $5 bill on the table, and pay a bunch of taxes to the state of Wisconsin and the federal government, and walk out with a pack of smoke. I can do it right now. Well, not now because I'm on camera, but I can do it right now. So no, they're not banned. And the comparison that came back was, well, how would you feel if the school was giving out cigarettes at the taxpayers' expense to the kids? Which is the perfect allegory to what this is. So, again, what Alicia Moore does with her own money, it's her own stupid fucking business. But these books are not banned. And that's actually going to be it for the day. I ran a long show today. We had a lot of stuff doing. It's hard because I know that there's only one day a week I can really do this with my work schedule, but I mean, it does fall back into the idea of there are some weeks where you're just repeating the same thing over and over again every day, and I did fall into that trap for a little while over the summer with Contemporary. But then you have weeks like this where this would have been a much, much better show, split up a little bit, but we got to find a rhythm here. I know the 7 o'clock show with the work schedule doesn't work anymore, so again, next week, before I start up the outro music, next week we are going into... I'm going to start at 7 next week, and we're going to go till 9. Hopefully not till 10. But I'll start an hour later. We'll see how the audience goes. I'm going to experiment with this a little bit to see what works best for the audience. Because I know you're as much of a part of this as I am. So we can get a few more people in, get a few more comments, and it works around people's dinner schedule a little bit better. We'll move it to that way. And I guess wherever we see the most audience is where we're going to go. I'm going to come back in tomorrow, and we're going to play Final Fantasy X tomorrow night. Because I really, really needed some time to turn my brain off and do nothing. And I want to share that with you guys. So 6 p.m. Central time, right here on this channel, we'll do some Final Fantasy X. And let's head out of here for the night. Where's my outro music? I just had to restart. I put a new graphics card in. Thank you to my friend Seawall, friend of the show Seawall, who sold it to me for well under market value. I put it in the computer and I was just playing around, and I started up Diablo 2 Resurrected and ran it on full graphics, where I had to pretty much run it on potato graphics beforehand. And it was a night and day difference off of this. Now I kind of want to buy some new games that will actually take advantage of the 2080 or 2060 card. I can play Starfield. We got a long ways to go before we can get to Starfield, but I can play Starfield if I really wanted to. Outro music is... Where's my outro music? There it is. Alright, outro music is up. Title card is queued up, ready to go, and we're going to head out of here for the night. Thank you, everybody, who stuck with me through the full extended length show, especially those of you on the audio platform, taking this on the go or watching on the replay as well. This live stream will get privated. This will get re-uploaded as a regular video with the recording, just in case we did lose some frames across the way, but we had a really good internet night tonight, so I'm happy for that. We will be back here next week, 7 p.m. Central Time, next Tuesday, for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Come back and join me for that. We'll see if we can pull a bigger audience on that particular time slot. I know, of course, I'd love to get back to my 7 a.m. time slot, but that is out of the question right now. But we will see you then. Take care. Have a fantastic night. We will see you here next time for that. We'll be here tomorrow night for Final Fantasy X. And hey, if everything works out really well, we'll do a Fallout Friday again as well this week. After last week, it'll be really nice to turn my brain off for 2 nights. But we will see what the scheduling goes for. I got to check with Brew and see which week we are going to go back and do Unfiltered Brew again. But there's that coming up as well. And as always, if you're on Twitch, stick around. We're going to go find somebody to raid as soon as the title card goes up. Take care. Have a fantastic night. Go get some dinner. Get some sleep. Get some rest. We will see you here next week for more news, more headlines, more contemporary. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.